Hi guys, before we get started today, there's a couple of quick announcements I want to make. First, I want to talk to you about Podcast Republic. It's an app for Android phones. If you listen to Not Another Fake Newscast and you own an Android device, you should do me a big favour and go in the Google Play Store and download the Podcast Republic app. It's a fantastic app that allows you to get all your favourite podcasts directly to your Android phone. I've used the app. I can search for podcasts I want to listen to, favourite them. I can have them all just one click away. So make sure that you set Not Another Fake Newscast as your favourite, and you won't miss any new episodes from us. So again, that app is called the Podcast Republic app, and it's available on any and all Android devices, and you can get that in your Google Store. Another amazing announcement I want to make is one of our new sponsors. It's Holzkern. That's HOLZKERN, and you can find them at www.holzkern.com. Their watches, they're made from wood and marble. It's quite a young Austrian company, and they take pride in their unique watch design. As I said, the watches are made of wood and marble and some other precious, semi-precious stones. They are very, very cool. Both myself and Jerry have one, and we've been gracious enough to be given an offer code that will get you 15% off your watch purchases. So that's NAFNC 15. That's NAFNC 15, and that'll get you 15% off any of your watch purchases off the website. So want to go there, have a look at their stuff. It's all very cool, and get your own unique piece of nature with Holzkern. Now on to the show.
Come gather round me, children, I'll tell you the news. Don't worry about the names or dates, you already know it's true. The doctor hates your baby, the prime minister's a ghost, and all them folks are sailing here 'cause they're in love with boats. Superfoods can save us from all our evil sin. JFK and Elvis own a bar in Wisconsin. Vaccinations were created by the CIA to steal votes from Bernie Sanders and turn your babies gay. So click the link you think you'd like and get tooled for a fight against those lefty fascist communists who are leaning too far right.
Hi, welcome to Not Another Fake Newscast. I'm Paul.
And I'm Jerry.
So before we jump into the episode, we'll do the quick bit of housekeeping that we always do. So in the event you want to contact us via email, you can get us at
info@notanotherfakenewscast.com.
If you want to get us on Facebook or Twitter, you can get us at
PGMcast on both Facebook and Twitter, and also on Patreon. If you're looking for us on YouTube, just type in PGMcast.
Yep, like you said, Patreon. If you want to support us at Patreon, that would be ideal. And also, we should have some changes coming up over the coming weeks. We're in the middle of discussion regarding the T-shirts and getting them from TeePublic, which is serviced great, but the only problem is
They have to come from America.
Yeah, and it takes ages and ages and ages. So I'm in the middle of discussions.
You have to pay customs costs and stuff.
So I'm in discussions with a sweet company in the UK that have printed up some T-shirts that we played at our live show, and they were really nice.
They look banging, yo.
And we also have a ton of our keyrings again.
We have loads of keyrings because Doug at Speedpunk
is the da.
Yeah, amazing keyrings. So if you want to check out www.speedpunk.co.uk for all of his cool motorcycle stuff and bags and whatever that he makes, and you should totally do that because it's all cool as fuck.
And like I said, he makes us cool as fuck keyrings.
So if you want a keyring, just hit us up on social media, or send us an email at info@notanotherfakenewscast.com. Obviously, our website is www.notanotherfakenewscast.com, and we've given it a bit of an overhaul in the past week.
You can see my new sweet Hamilton designs because our pig has a name.
Our pig has a name. At a competition that was won by Christine, a T-shirt is currently winging its way to her because she won the name survey. So our pig logo is called Hamilton. Good name, as suggested by Christine. And we also have a new competition.
I thought you just said there, I suggested Big Christine is the name of the pig.
No, I didn't. No.
But I didn't realise you said as suggested by Christine. See, if we didn't know Big Christine, it wouldn't have made any sense. But because we do, it's just that way we're like, because she's doll, and her name's Christine.
Yeah, I'm sure she loves being called Big Christine. Like,
Oh, I mean, she's taller than me. I mean, lots of people are taller than me, in fairness.
Yeah.
I call lots of people big name. Insert name.
So, the www.notanotherfakenewscast.com, and also if you're looking for to enter a competition, then we have a competition whereby you can win one of our awesome leather keyrings and a t-shirt of your choice. All you need to do is submit a review to iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you can leave reviews for podcasts, and if you screenshot that and then send it to our account on Twitter, tag us in on Twitter, or tag us in on Facebook, or post it on our Facebook, then you'll be automatically entered into the draw, which ends at the end of May.
Or post it on our Reddit, because that's a cesspool.
Reddit's a toilet, but hey-ho.
Also, while we're on this subject, I noticed that we've got some listeners in really obscure places around the world. See if you're like one of the people who live on like a various island. Sorry about that.
I don't know where that came from.
A various island in the Caribbean or like off the coast in New Zealand or Australia or whatever, and it's one of these weird islands. But weird, I just mean, like a standalone island thing. Contact us, because I just want to talk to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you're a listener,
also, I don't want to then say nobody else should. They should contact us as well.
we're always happy to hear from any listener. It's always awesome. So,
especially outside the UK, though, I don't know. There's something about the fact that just the idea of like we have listeners in Japan, the idea that they're listening to us and they're like, thank fuck for that.
we have quite a lot of listeners in like Australia and New Zealand.
Oh, we do?
We know like Paranji's obviously been in touch with us and stuff, and he's on the Discord. But we've never really heard from any of our Australian listeners. So if you're one of them, give us a shout as well.
So if you're one of them,
yeah. If you're one of them, we've probably lost actually. Thinking about it.
At the last episode, there was a lot of drinking, poor Australian accents.
Chat. So moving swiftly on, our episode this month, our deep dive episode, is about Syria and Russia and the Skripals and assassinations on British soil, or not, as the case may be.
So I know we've actually done Syria as part of an episode before. It's actually almost a year ago since we've done that episode.
It's over a year ago.
Because we as a nation and allies keep on revisiting Syria. So from our point of view, that's what we're going to have to do for our news.
Yeah, as long as the Allied forces keep bombing it, we're going to have to keep talking about it, I guess. And we're also going to talk about some of the events which led up to the Syrian chemical attack and strained diplomatic relations with Russia.
So we'll jump straight in. We've got an article from...
It was from BuzzFeed News that was published in 2017 called From Russia with Blood. And it looked at a number of 9 deaths, basically, that occurred within a kind of business group, friendship group in London, including Russian oligarchs, ex-Russian spies, and a Dundonian fixer by the name of Scott Young.
He's the amalgamation of AC/DC lead singer and guitarist smashing into each other.
But he took, because Bon Scott was so powerfully Dundonian, he's Dundonian. Is that how it works?
That's it, is it? In the end, it can be only one Dundonian. Also, Jerry likes Dundee because he voted yes. I dislike Dundee because it's a shithole.
Oh, listen.
No, that's, I actually don't hate Dundee as much as I used to.
Don't be knocking the city of yes, man. That's bad crack.
City of yes, man?
City of yes, man. I don't think they even speak that. I think that's us.
So see, if you drive up to the end of the road, you'll get to a circle, turn left, you'll get to a foot, you get to a circle, you're in a fucking roundabout, you're in a fucking roundabout. Listen,
leave the Dundonians alone. I feel like we're ostracising everybody these days. We were doing an Australian accents last time. I'm not even going to bother doing a Dundonian accent because I like them so much.
The thing is, like,
leave them alone.
No. The thing is, fucking no. No, the thing is, I actually don't dislike Dundonians as much as I dislike Aberdonians.
No, listen, you can't do that either.
I'm only doing this just because I'm just going to work my way right round.
Not cool, Pan.
Almost,
not cool.
Almost by default, being a Ouija.
You're hated by everybody.
I'm hated by all the rest of them anyway, so it doesn't matter.
But I like to think that they like us, and I want them to know that I like them back.
Jerry likes you all. I don't dislike you.
So
The borders, though.
Fuck's sake, man.
I'm only kidding. I had a good love for y'all.
So yeah, essentially they all kind of circled around an extremely rich Russian named Boris Berezovsky, an exiled oligarch, and there was 9 people who were involved with him in a Russian property deal known as Project Moscow. Why is that funny?
like a bunch of Russians, and they're just kicking about, and they're just like, we're going to have a property deal. We're going to call it Project Moscow. Why? We only name our things after James Bond movies or episodes of fucking Police Academy.
Well, the interesting thing about Project Moscow was that Berezovsky was not allowed to do business in Russia. Putin fucking hated him and wanted him dead, basically, which is why he'd sort of fled to London.
I mean, the thing is, all these guys were still politically involved in Russia.
Yeah, like Berezovsky put a lot of money into up the opposition of Putin from abroad, you know.
What's Alexander's surname?
Lebedev.
So
yeah.
He's a media oligarch.
Yeah, he's the guy who was the previous owner of the Independent. It's now owned by his son Evgeny Lebedev.
And Alexandra was Alexandra was
ex-KGB.
Ex-KGB. So a comrade, no, but a colleague of Putin at some point or another.
Yeah, and there's people in the sort of circle of friends, business associates who are ex-KGB as well, including a notable guy you will have heard of called Litvinenko. We'll get to him in a minute. So the idea was that they were going to get involved in this property deal in Moscow, the biggest sort of property deal that had ever happened in Russia.
Oh,
and they were going to be
misunderstood. I thought they were building stuff over here and calling it Project Moscow.
No, the idea was that they wanted to do it over there, but surreptitiously without Putin knowing, sort of giving 2 fingers up to him behind his back.
I mean, we all know how easy it is to just let things slip by Putin. That's what they say.
That's what they say. Always take his eye off the ball.
And it's fucking hates his micromanaging, does Putin. That's what it says about him.
So they were trying to do it through back channels and whatever, and Scott Young was heavily involved in this.
Shell companies,
this Dundonian guy. And basically all 9 of them died in a relatively short space of time. British police declared the deaths of all 9 men in Berezovsky's circle non-suspicious, but the BuzzFeed article reveals that, according to them, MI6 asked its US counterparts for information about each one of them in the context of assassinations.
I mean, the British government had the tendency, especially at that time, to totally fucking drop the ball when it came down to suspicious looking deaths. I mean, we'll not kind of loom on it at the present moment, but certainly there was members of the Labour Party who were against Project Iraq 2, Iraq Harder.
Oh, right, so you're talking about Robin Cook, David Kelly, people like that.
Who all died of like heart attacks up hills and stuff like that, like randomly. And you also had your man from MI5 who was found in his flat in a suitcase, and they ruled that as suicide. I mean, essentially what I'm saying is it was a bad time or a good time, depending on what you're into. But it was a bad time for the British government saying suicide or like, you know, non-suspicious heart attack of 25, 30-year-old men.
So yeah, I mean, there's for instance, one of the people they talk about in this article, it says we reveal that US spy agencies had handed the British government high-grade intelligence that the Russian whistleblower Alexander Perepelchiny, who died in Surrey in 2012, was likely assassinated on the direct orders of the Kremlin.
How did he die?
How did he die? It says...
It's like a fucking true crime episode now.
I wish you'd fucking asked me before I moved away from it. The authorities sidelined that and other evidence pointing to a murder, instead declaring that he had died of natural causes. We can reveal that...
Naturally fell on a knife 16 times.
We can reveal that US intelligence officials suspect a further 13 people, including Berezovsky and 8 members of his circle, have been assassinated in British soil by Russia's security services or mafia groups, 2 forces that sometimes work in tandem, according to this article. That intelligence, based on human sources, intercepted communications and public material gathered by US spy agencies, has been shared with Britain in relation to all 14 deaths. Yet British police have ruled out foul play in every case.
That's because British police prefer sources that have came from inhuman sources.
Just cyborgs.
Werewolves, Dracula, pretty much the undead.
Zombies.
Yeah,
dragons.
To be honest, sometimes British police work might have been fucking zombies and dragons. But yeah, so certainly, and at this point, it's good to point out that some of them have had random heart attacks, as we've joked about. But we know certainly from what we'll look shortly, the Russians have got chemicals that make people look like they've had heart attacks.
As long as they're not found straight away. Berezovsky was found apparently hanged in his bathroom in 2013. His business partner, the Georgian oligarch Badri Patarkatashvili, dropped dead of an apparent heart attack in 2008, as did Yuri Golubev, co-founder of the troubled oil giant Yukos. There is also two British lawyers named in US intelligence records as possible victims of Russian hits. Stephen Moss, who also succumbed to a sudden heart attack in 2003, age 46. Stephen Curtis, who died in a helicopter crash in 2004.
Helicopter crash.
They were helping the Russian oligarchs funnel money into Britain. 3 of Young's close friends and business partners, so that's the Scott Young guy we were talking about earlier, the fixer for Dundee, Paul Castle, Robbie Curtis and Johnny Elychev, all lost their lives in apparent suicides in the 4 years before Young himself died, and Young supposedly committed suicide by throwing himself from a window when there was evidence that there was finger scratch marks.
Not claw marks.
Not claw marks. Trying to hold himself, or allegedly the idea is that he was trying to hold himself in and was thrown out by guys who wanted him dead.
I mean, you could also argue if you were you could say that
he might have just shot himself halfway through.
He changed his mind. Aye, man. Actually, I mean, I'm sure that's what I was going to say defence, but I can't imagine there's a defence in this, in these legal proceedings. But you know what I mean? I can't imagine. I'm guessing that's what the argument would have been. Or it might have just been these fucking poor judges that we already spoke about earlier on that just made terrible decisions over that time.
Anyway, I mean, the article it's a good read. It's a long read. There's lots of evidence in it, pictures. There's a pretty cool thing where they've rebuilt his phone records and they're all published on it, and you can scroll through them as if it's a real phone and read his text and stuff. The Scott Young guy, I mean,
there's loads of names Jerry can't pronounce.
There's loads of names that I can't pronounce, so you can try and pronounce them yourselves.
If you want to send us in videos, if you're trying to pronounce the names, I'm quite happy to watch it.
It'll make me feel better.
Yeah. Unless you're Russian, because you have an unfair advantage.
No, that will make me feel shit about myself. There is, it also talks about Litvinenko, who was part of their group as well, was a close associate of Berezovsky, and was again an ex-KGB spy.
So I mean, he was an ex-KGB spy, but he also, there's question marks over if he was still pretty active, the same as
other people
that we'll get to. But yeah, I mean, so there was questions over his activities in I was going to say the later part of his life, but that's only because by the time that the radiation kicked in, he looked about 90.
Yeah, and when he died, he was 43 or something.
But essentially, and he wasn't officially an active spy, I believe.
That's
officially.
Officially.
By the time that he was eating polonium and his sushi and tea and
and
when imperials,
when the polonium, they found the traces of it, because it's so radioactive, it's got such a large half-life. There was traces of it all over London. They were able to trace the exact path that the FSB agents involved had used to kill him. The British government named the exact individuals in the report of Litvinenko's death, and you can find all of that stuff online. We'll obviously post up our sources as we always do. The British government didn't want to sever diplomatic ties with Russia, and they wanted to make sure that things were okay. And Russia actually aided in the investigation into Litvinenko's assassination up to a certain point. When we...
The point when we were like, it's like Steve and Bill,
Yeah.
and Russia were just like...
Can you extradite them here? And Russia were like...
No.
Niet, I believe is what they said. And that was the point at which we decided to have a public inquiry and published all the information about what happened there. So,
interestingly, there was radioactive material kicking about London, and up until they went looking for it, nobody knew.
nobody noticed.
There's no like indicators or alarms.
Yeah, like you'd think maybe at like airports or
So I know that, for example, weird fact of the day. Do you know that Brazil nuts set off radiation meters in nuclear power plants?
Why?
Because their high potassium level down in bananas, I believe, as well. So they've got a half-life. Actually, when I say potassium, I'm not 100% certain it is potassium in Brazil nuts, but essentially they have radioactive properties enough that a pocket full of Brazil nuts will set off a
pocket full of Brazil nuts
Set
helps the radiation.
Your radiation meter go off.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's...
Radiation meter go off.
So I just mean that if you can imagine that the sensitivity or the day-to-day running in a nuclear power plant doesn't set one of these off, and there can't be that many people kicking with London with pockets full of Brazil nuts for it to be a fucking problem.
I just you would think even maybe diplomatic cases, whatever, they'd be checking for shit like that.
Near the Houses of Parliament, or you know what I mean, like near Buckingham Palace, like these are the places that you would like. Some places on the Thames where boats are coming up and down.
Although,
you know what I mean,
perhaps it has been recorded, but unless there's a reason to look at it, they just
like the phone records and stuff.
And like also, we have radioactive sources offshore, nucleonic sources, like actual radioactive material in fucking boxes with big radiation
Don't
things.
lick.
They use it for level measurement in big like vessels, separators and stuff like that.
The other problem you would have as well is, you say, when I had said things like the Houses of Parliament and stuff like that, but imagine that I say park up next to it, but essentially imagine on the Thames you had one of our warships, which I'm sure happens from time to time.
Yeah, or nuclear subs.
I would absolutely set the place off. In a nuclear sub, you probably don't want people to notice kicking up the Thames, so I don't even know if the Thames is deep enough for a nuclear sub, to be honest. I don't know.
I'm not a naval commander. Fact.
We weirdly do have a fan on our Discord. We can ask in the event that, so we'll get back to you on that, but we can check into that. We can check to see if the depth and stuff like that.
Cool. So kind of Litvinenko, poisoned by polonium, the whole diplomatic fallout over that left Russian-British relationships at a 30-year low or whatever, or no, probably 20-year low since the fall of the Iron Curtain, and we'd kind of made pals and stuff like that. It put diplomatic tensions.
I only about 15 years really, or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Iron Curtain fell just around 1985ish, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is like 2008ish, or was it 12? Let me just check actually.
Again, so that's some decent. So that's you're looking at 23 years. So but it's call it 20 years.
2006.
So 20 years. So we're moving on to our more current.
Yeah.
Russian that get poisoned.
Yeah. So we look at Sergei Skripal. Actually, as Paul sort of intimated, there's evidence came out in the past week or so that Skripal fairly recently was still passing information to the Spanish intelligence agencies, which is something that we know that Litvinenko was also doing in the years and months leading up to his assassination by Russia.
So moving forward, just quickly when we're going to talk about this, I'd like to say that moving forward from the evidence that I've seen so far and from what we're able to bring to it, I've always said that the whole process seemed sus as hell regarding the way that we have reacted to it, But in the grand scheme of things, I think that the more and more evidence that comes out, the more it points to certain involvement with Russia. I mean, it's difficult to imagine a sequence of events where Russia weren't involved in some way, shape or form. The timescales, the way that the interactions that the OPCW have had, things that have been, I mean, like certain releases that we've seen from people, the way that Germany reacted, the way that France reacted, the way that Nicola Sturgeon reacted to, like, these are all people who would absolutely hang Theresa May out to dry if they could.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of good political reasons why none of those people would be natural allies of Theresa May. Sturgeon, Macron and Merkel are not looking to be her friend at the minute. It doesn't do them any favours or win them any political points in their own countries. And
then kind of following from that, the OPCW...
Apart from a unionists in Scotland, I suppose.
The OPCW, although there has been reports from Russia, that states some of the lab work that was done by the OPCW suggests that it wasn't Novichok.
Yeah, but we then spoke to the OPCW and they said, nah.
Yeah, they said, we're not saying that. It's essentially, they never, granted, they didn't say, we didn't say that, but they said there has been enough evidence collected that suggests the narrative that has been put forward by the British government.
Yeah, they said Portendown is an OPCW approved testing site and they have tested this to a top level. We approve the results that they have found, and if any other OPCW approved lab carried out the testing, they would get the same results.
Yeah.
Which are that it was a Novichok that was used. They have at no point said, Portendown at no point said it was Russia.
No, it was only Boris.
Yeah.
That categorically said to the news that it was Russia.
Now, presumably that's based on intelligence, whether it's signals intelligence or human intelligence. No, I'm not talking about
there's absolutely nothing that signals intelligence in that one.
But just for anybody who's not aware, Sergei Skripal was an agent spy for a Russian spy who then sold secrets basically to Spain in particular. He was taken.
He was a double agent.
Yeah, and to, I believe, to Britain a little bit as well. And he was swapped as part of a spy swap with Britain. After being in jail in Russia for a number of years, he came to live in the UK in Salisbury, where he was poisoned by Novichok, along with his daughter, who had recently visited from Russia. So as I've discussed with you before off air, there is some weird things, like the sheer timing of it. Like the fact that he was poisoned when his daughter came over suggests that they intended to poison both of them, as in, like, it wasn't. Whoever poisoned him.
They could have poisoned him at any point. So waiting for like the 1 week that she visits every so often, it's a sus time to do it. It almost suggests that it was possibly, and it has been suggested following this, that it was possibly still active in some way.
Yeah, it has. Well, it's been suggested in an article I read today, and I believe it was The Guardian, but I'll post it up, that there's evidence that he was talking on the sort of ex-spy circuit.
That's backslash R backslash spy.
Ex-spy. He was sort of doing lectures and stuff on the ex-spy circuit around Europe. He was talking. He had revealed secrets.
I both want to go to the ex-spy circuit and also don't, because
it looks like it gets you Novichok.
Well, all those people that are in the room might not be ex-spies. They might just be spies.
Like, and their cover is that they're ex-spies.
I mean, like we know.
Hey, remember when we used to be spies? Wink.
Well, I only know of two spies.
Glad we're not spies anymore. Wink.
You want some sushi? No. I don't know. Why is it glowing?
I never eat out with ex-spies. It's one of the rules I live my life by.
It's like they're glowing sushi in the corner and nobody's touching the door handles. This place is dodgy as shit.
They just get their sleeves pulled over their hands.
Using their elbows and like glowing sushi. Do you want some glowing sushi? But the point I was getting at is I kind of want to go and do that because it'd be great for the podcast, but it seems like it puts us in a hellish danger. So we'll see.
I mean, so does accusing the Russians of assassinating loads of British people.
We were just reading from an article. We weren't accusing them.
That's true. Yeah, we're just presenting information that we have discovered elsewhere. So, what were we talking about?
We were talking about the Russians.
Oh, right,
how
okay.
he's still an active spy.
So Skripal, there's evidence that he was still passing information and secrets to the European Intelligence Agency and also still to the Spanish Intelligence Agency, who he had obviously previously been doing that for during his time as officially a spy. Craig Murray in one of his blogs. Now, Craig Murray's a bit of a controversial dude. I find some of the things that he says interesting, and some of the stuff he says is definitely provable. I think he sometimes overstates and overstretches in some of his claims. Because of this, when he named the Sergei Skripal's handler as Pablo Miller, a guy who has also been spoke about that he was Litvinenko's MI6 handler.
It's a classic English name, Pablo Miller.
I think it's a Spanish name. I don't know if that's relevant. Might be either way. He named Pablo Miller as Sergei Skripal's MI6 handler, and Pablo Miller apparently also lives in Salisbury or nearby. And
now he's fucking raging at Mr. Murray because he's just like, why did you name me?
Well, so apparently Craig Murray alleged in his blog article that there was a D notice out on Pablo Miller, which meant that the British press weren't supposed to name him, etc., etc. And because of Craig Murray's tendency to sometimes overstate things or say stuff that I find questionable, not always, but sometimes, I decided to check out the veracity of his claims, and I spoke to a prominent correspondent at one of the major broadcasters in the UK, not one of the ones that we've spoke about as being biased before either, and that person confirmed to me that yes, it's a known secret that Pablo Miller was Sergei Skripal's handler, and that yes, there was a D notice, but that there's not the fact that there's a D notice isn't necessarily a big deal, because A D notice is only advisory, and B, there's usually a fairly good reason for it. He suggested that him and his colleagues had discussed what they should say about the Skripal case and about his handler, and chose to mention it, but not to give full details. But Craig Murray already has, and I have also done some work to confirm that that is the case. So it looks like there is possible similarities in the Litvinenko operation and Sergei Skripal's operation, and in the ultimate act of poisoning by the Russian state, potentially.
So let's look at a couple of quick components of the poisoning, right?
Okay. No, you don't have them here, do you?
So, Jerry, hold this. No, so...
oh, that's a belter.
Aye, would you give a D notice? Proud of that. So, a couple of...
Fucking noticed your D anyway.
So, it's awful. That whole section.
Cousinly love. I'm a cousin nuzzler.
Nasty. So anyway, what I'm trying to get to is, so you've got a poisoning, you've got the man and his daughter are poisoned with a chemical that's going to make it look like they have a heart attack, which is weird because no one's going to believe they both had simultaneous heart attacks. That's kind of strange. The interesting factors here are the speed of which a chemical that's designed to not be identified was identified.
Yeah.
And also the fact that, generally speaking, as a rule, from someone who grew up outside of Glasgow but spent a lot of time in Glasgow, regularly you'll see people like passed out on a park bench. Usually that doesn't then mean that you show up with fucking hazmat suits.
Granted, that is true. However, Glasgow is not Salisbury. Fact.
Oh, no, I know. But you know what I mean? Like, essentially...
I don't think Salisbury's known for its Jakies.
Oh, right.
It's known for...
Steak.
It's known for...
Salisbury steak.
It's known for Lady Godiva, actually, isn't it? Was that not what that... Ride the cock horse. Oh, no, it's Banbury. Fucking forget about it.
Anyway, the point being that the reaction to the passed out guy on a bench is quite intense.
They were in there pretty swiftly.
Granted, there is an argument to say there is the chemical plant, the chemical weapons plant, like along the road, or there is the chemical lab along the road. That's where the guys came with the hazmat suits from.
Yes, okay. So it was, but then the conspiracy theorists would say, well, isn't that convenient that it happened next to Portadown?
Also, there is an argument to say that it was a known asset, certainly in some form or another, to the British government, whether or not he had been in a...
He had an MI6 handler.
He had an MI6 handler. So, you know, dead guy who was okay yesterday, now dead on a bench, also known Russian spy with an MI6 handler. There might be a rule set that says, if you find a dead Russian spy, show up with hazmat suits because he might have been poisoned.
Also, I think if you're handling somebody, you're probably supposed to keep some sort of eye on them, eh?
Well, yeah, so that you would imagine that as soon as he passed out and started dying on a bench, there would be people who had eyes on him. We're talking about, like I said, we're talking about what certainly looks like from evidence that it was still an active, but certainly had been an active British asset at some point or another. So you could argue that his location to the site and the fact that he had a handler that was relatively close in the grand scheme of things to where he's from, it could have just been protocol that mobilised the people as quickly as possible because his relatively young daughter was also heart attacking.
Well, somebody also may well have been keeping a close eye on him because his daughter from Russia was there to visit him. And
while they were keeping a close eye on him, they were just like, that burly Russian-looking man seems to be smearing stuff all over the front door.
Now,
take note of that.
Well, so this is where I'm going to go a bit opinion-y here, but you know, it's sort of based around the evidence that's available to us. I would say, first of all, I don't see any motivation for this to have been carried out by UK Special Services, as has been suggested in a lot of quarters, because if it doesn't offer a lot of invitation or any sort of motivation for a spy to potentially defect to the UK if they're looking at people who have done it. Litvinenko, Skripal, we're clearly
terrible at keeping
giving people protection, right? And if so why would we kill folk to damage our reputation even further or attempt to kill people? Also, what I don't see what we gain from it necessarily, apart from potentially making Russia an enemy. But
political tensions. I mean, that's the only benefit that you would have from this. So, not saying that this is what they've done. As you know, I'm relatively in the camp that says Russia were definitely involved in this in some form or another. Not necessarily saying it's an order that's came from Putin, but certainly Russia or Russian assets have been involved in this.
I don't think the Russian intelligence agency does anything without Putin knowing about it.
Possibly, but the thing is, that's my opinion. Yeah, there's no way you can prove that. But what I would say is the only benefit, so let's go on the idea that wasn't the case and it was from the British government.
Surely if they could, just kill him.
Who?
Putin. the Russian intelligence
They
agencies.
would just kill Putin.
Like, if they could do something without him knowing about it, would they not? Like, he's a dictator and he's not even having proper elections and stuff, unless they're just
I reckon when you go into the room with Putin, he's standing with his shirt off and a mace in his hand, and he just fucking smashes your head in like a baddie at the old movie, like when you question him during Parliament.
Have you got a source for this?
My imagination, most of my imagination.
Cool.
I imagine that he's got like a button and you fall into a fire pit if you question him. Exactly like that. No, but what I was kind of getting to there is the only benefit that I can see that's tangible for the British government, taking away the negative that you would have regarding spies and stuff, is the escalation into Syria.
Okay, right, okay.
So essentially, they're creating tension. Right, there's a couple of things. First and foremost, how much did you know about the OPCW before this case?
Very little. In fact, I don't think I'd ever heard of them. However, I will say that I can't remember the name for this particular psychological effect. I will check it out in a minute. But there's a process whereby once you are aware of a particular name or idea or theory or set of initials and you know what they mean, you will then see them more often. And
I get that, but that's actually what that's the point I'm trying to bring, that suddenly, perfectly timed, the OPCW were in the mind of everyone in the UK just in time for them to investigate chemical attacks in Syria.
We can see that if we look back, and we have done for the research of this episode, that the OPCW have been heavily involved in chemical weapons inspecting and writing of reports in Syria for at least...
I mean, we back and forth with emails now with them, so I'm very aware that's not a joke either. That does actually happen. We're on their mailing list.
But for at least the past, and we've spoken to our press officer a couple of times, at least the past 4 years, you know, they've been involved in going to Syria and stuff like that. So they have, you know, clearly existed and clearly had quite heavy press coverage at times. It's just that we have missed it. We haven't been particularly interested, or maybe we haven't been researching the podcast at the time, whereas we now are.
Well, yes, and I would agree, but it's how important they were to this case and how suddenly important they were to the next chemical weapons case that happened a few weeks later. Now, as I discussed with you earlier on today, there may well be an argument to say it is entirely coincidental that these two events happened so close to each other. In fact, there might have even been a reason to facilitate and push for things happening in Syria off the back of what had happened, because they had been given such a perfect Russia's the baddie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, there are a few things. Like, my personal opinion on it is that because of the nature of Novichok, because it is something which has to be detected quickly after use, or it can no longer be detected, I think it was either very fortunate, or I believe that the UK had intelligence and were well aware that this was going to happen, which explains why the press response to it was so coordinated, why the medical and investigatory response to it was so coordinated, why the foreign policy response to it was so coordinated. It seems to me that they had a lot of time to think about this, a lot of time to prepare, and a lot of time to make sure that it was dealt with in the way that most benefited the British government. But I still think that it was perpetrated and carried out by the Russians, because it's entirely their modus operandi. There's plenty of evidence as to why they would want to do it. I think that the British intelligence agencies were fully aware and had compiled a dossier to show that this particular person has told us that this is going to happen, and we have tracked these people coming with this stuff. We have watched them do it, and that is the dossier of information which I believe has been presented to the likes of Nicola Sturgeon, to Macron, to Merkel, to Trump, etc., in order to convince them that it was the Russians. And that's why something like 27 countries instantly threw at Russian diplomats. They were condemned worldwide.
Except New Zealand, because they said they couldn't find any spies, which is one of the funniest things that happened in politics that week.
Class. No, we don't have any spies.
There was South Africans there.
That's right. He's got sauce for arms.
The spy did.
Yeah.
That would be the giveaway that it was a spy. To be honest, I mean, the British intelligence agency did have at least 4 examples of random Russians taking heart attacks, so they were probably quite good at identifying us by this point.
So there is an element of like lie hop there, let it happen on purpose. They knew it was going to happen, and if that is the case, their decision to undersupply Jeremy Corbyn with information which has been confirmed by the Conservative Party in the last week or so. They have defended the decision to not fully debrief Jeremy Corbyn at the same time as debriefing all of these other people. I believe that, again, that smacks of, we had time to prepare for this. That was just a little extra fuck you.
Fuck you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
And you're a fucking Russian spy.
And a little way of like, how can we've got this perfect opportunity, as well as everything else, we can use it to undermine Jeremy Corbyn and make him look a bit...
I mean, one would imagine that the argument is that he holds no actual position of power.
No, true, but I mean, there's a precedent for, David
absolutely,
Cameron.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it has
fully
happened.
Debriefed Ed Miliband and whatever else.
Yeah, I mean, like, absolutely. But, I mean, that would be, I'm guessing, the argument that they come back with, that just, like, the only people they gave the information to were the absolute leader of their relevant parliaments. That's why Sturgeon would fall under that.
Necessary people. Also, I mean, you're not going to give that information to a commie spy, are you?
No, especially not a commie spy that's a member of the IRA.
Yeah, I mean, he's a nightmare.
You're fucking throwing it out. A photocopying it and just sending it to everyone.
Can't be trusted. He'd probably have told, like, his plants in his allotment or something as well. And it just have made them sad.
Commie plants. Commie Republican plants.
So, that's my opinion on it, personally.
And the thing is, like I said, I'm not a million miles away from you on that opinion. One of the things that... So they allow that to happen. It just then means Syria perfectly happened in the way that... So let's say so what I'm saying here is, let's say the official narrative plays out across the board here. So Russia poisoned him. And they discovered that Russia had poisoned him in whatever way that they'd done that. And then the OPCW get involved. And then they say that the British government were right. And everyone is right. And everyone's fallen into place. And then a gas attack happens in Syria like the week later.
Right, well, we'll get onto that in a minute. Because there's a few things that we need to look at in terms of, which are particularly fake news based around the Skripal poisoning. Specifically, there was a number of articles addressing fake news and Russian bots being a thing, and one specific one by The Guardian, which mentioned @PartisanGirl and a Twitter user called @Ian56789.
That's because Ian56788 was taken, so he had to take the next one sequentially. Yeah.
And I just think he was a big Steps fan.
Absolutely. Also, he thought to himself, how can I make myself sound like a bot without calling myself @RobotMan1? So he was just like...
Or he was a German Steps fan. Or a German non-Steps fan. So he was like...
56789!
Yeah, that's it.
You see where you were going at?
I'm glad someone did.
Ian, the classic German name.
Anyway, it turns out that... and again, we'll put all the sources up for this, but @PartisanGirl, if you had done just a rudimentary amount of research as a Guardian journalist, you would have saw that she has been creating content for InfoWars since at least 2014.
I found an article of her before she took up the name @PartisanGirl today.
Yeah.
Like, by chance.
And you can find, like, her real name is Maram Sousli. She lives in Australia. She's a Syrian...
girl.
She was born in Syria, and like she's been producing content for InfoWars, so you can imagine the kind of...
So she believes frogs are grey. No, not grey, gay.
Some frogs are grey.
And it turns out because what they put in the water, all frogs are gay. That's what.
Well,
that's
frogs will die out pretty quickly.
That's what that sweaty sausage prick says.
French will be pissed off. So Syrian girl, partisan girl, not a bot, instantly did videos explaining, talking directly to camera, explaining how she isn't a bot, and also threatened legal proceedings against The Guardian to the extent that they had to change the language in the report and print a correction to say Twitter user instead of Twitter bot.
And John 1 2 3 4 5 6 he was allowed on Sky News.
He went on Sky News and proceeded to talk for about 7 minutes, the kind of fucking crazy shite you'd expect Alex Jones to.
Type of crazy shit you'd expect from a Twitter bot. Only he has skin.
But as we kind of discussed in the top referendum of skeptics, like this sort of stuff only allows the fake news type stories to bleed into the mainstream. It gives them credence to a lot of people, and it also makes people question whether the mainstream media are doing their job properly, which they're not, obviously, in that case.
That's it. It creates a two-pronged problem. It first then brings these, I don't care if they like me or not, these morons it brings to the public eye. So now they know that there is these people spouting mad, non-substantiated InfoWars garbage, and but they now know our name. So they now go on Twitter and they type at Partisan Girl or at Ian, and then just hit their keyboard and get numbers.
And then, you know, not to be a misogynist, but she's a nice looking lassie, so there's lots of people that are going to do that because they think she's a nice looking lassie.
They've now seen a pretty girl who has a political opinion, and then, you know, if she's got a political opinion that appeals to, well, she definitely will have a political opinion that appeals to like half of the voters, give or take. Especially right now, if you look at the last couple of elections that they've had, it's pretty split, almost halfway for a lot of it, you know what I mean? So, she's appealing anyway, and then your man Ian 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 exists, and now people know they exist, so they now go and search to see what it is, because what happens is they
perhaps choose to follow them on Twitter.
They say, oh, this guy said a thing, I wonder what other things that they've said. But the problem is, as Jerry says, I mean, the other part of this second prong of problems is that they've now discredited themselves. They've now said, this person's a bot, and the person's come out and said, I'm not a bot. And they've went, oh, it turns out this person's not a bot. And then it's like, what else did you not research?
Yeah, exactly. What can we trust you on?
How far down does this go? Because
and if you're lying about this, what else are you lying about? And if they're telling the truth about this, what else are they telling the truth about?
So and then suddenly everybody thinks frogs are gay, and all they had to do to prevent that was do what me and Jerry do for every episode, and have
heterosexual sex with frogs.
What you do?
Oh fuck! Sorry, Paul. Sorry.
What you do for the episodes? What I do is I just Google the names of people and check that they actually existed, they're real people, and look at their job. I actually.
Well, I'm sorry. I go the extra mile, Paul.
You're making sure that all those female frogs are getting some loving.
Exactly. And also just making sure they like it. Some of them don't, but those are the gay ones. So they... What?
Nothing. I'm just concerned that all the frog sex Jerry has is consensual. I just want to make that clear.
Oh yeah, of course it is, yeah. Like, fucking hell.
It's just he said some of them didn't like it.
It's not like I fucking employed Black Cube to investigate fucking frogs and journalists.
We'll get to them later, before they start investigating this, because they'll now say their name in an episode.
So, just interestingly, another thing that we kind of talked about in the presentation and whatever that we gave Friends Skeptics was a dude called Alexander Giljevic Dugan, who is... a
Rasputin looking motherfucker.
Yeah, he does.
Like, essentially, Russia was just like, you know what we need? We need a Rasputin type guy. We've not Boney M are choking for a song. Like Doug in. I mean, I'll work on it.
Yeah. Giljevic is probably better. Giljevic.
No, definitely Doug in, because it's dig Doug. You can definitely. I'll have a song for next time that we've got an episode.
Lover of the heterosexual frogs. He's a Russian political analyst, close links to the Kremlin and the Russian military. There's folk that sort of argue that he's a big pal of Putin or that he's a big advisor to Putin. There's folk that say he's not involved so much with Russian foreign policy.
He's certainly involved in Russian politics in some form or another within the Kremlin. like he shows up there on like a Tuesday or whatever, like eats a sandwich in the lunch hall and just shouts mad political views across the room.
But I wrote a book in 1997 called "The Foundations of Geopolitics: The Geopolitical Future of Russia," which is a riveting read.
I mean, the thing is, he looked at it and he was just like, "Song of Fire and Ice is taken." What will I call it?
I think he looked at he wrote the foundations of geopolitics first, and then he thought, how can I make this sound more boring?
I'll include the word geopolitics again. Do you know what this needs? This needs geopolitics said twice in its title.
You should have just called it Geopolitics Squared. Geopolitics much harder.
That'd be amazing. That was the name of his book. But yeah,
I would be much more likely to read that.
Absolutely, definitely. But in 1997, so he was saying things like, it's totally a good idea for Britain to be broke away from the EU.
Yeah, he suggested it should be a Russian foreign policy objective for Britain to be separated from the EU. He suggested that Russia should annex Ukraine. There's certainly evidence that they've started that process.
He said that they should stop spending all the money on military and start spending all the money on what essentially he didn't know at the time, but he suggests internet trolls.
Yeah.
Is essentially suggesting.
Yeah, he's talking about non-standard military operations, propaganda, division.
I believe if you read the book, it says both 4chan and lulz.
He believed that Russia can still be the staging area of a new anti-bourgeois, anti-American revolution.
Inceb.
What?
Inceb.
Inceb, is that like incels?
Incel, that's what I mean. Incel.
Oh, right.
He suggests that. He's just like, we should tell men that they can't date women.
He suggests that the common enemy of the Eurasian people is Western liberal democracy.
Which is not true. The common enemy of the Eurasian people is the Eurythmics. Everyone knows that. Eurasia and the Eurythmics.
Or that shit Wheatus cover. I'm so in love with you.
I'm so glad that you said that, because I was just like, teenage dirtbag. I don't
remember Eurasia doing that one.
I don't recall Eurasia doing it, but you know.
There was a few things. He talks about what's necessary is a refined programme of subversion, disruption and propaganda organised by the Russian special services. He states that they should be supported by a no-nonsense exploitation of Russia's gas, oil and natural resources. He talks about basically using...
Kill 9 oligarchs in London. I mean, he was getting very specific for that point.
No, but he talks about deliberately creating racial division and segregation and stuff in America.
Yeah. Essentially, he says fund and push and help grow all of the components of both sides of pretty much every argument. Essentially, he came up with the idea of you should totally have a pro-Islam and pro-white supremacy march in the same town in Texas.
Yeah,
but
which we know happened.
But he didn't know about Facebook. I mean, that's essentially the only reason that he wasn't that specific with it. But he also says that a great thing for America to do would be brought towards being an isolationist state.
Yeah, that's right. Aye, so this is a direct quote from the book. Russia should introduce geopolitical disorder into internal American activity, domestic politics basically, encouraging all kinds of separatism and ethnic, social and racial conflicts. Actively support all dissident movements, extremist, racist and sectarian groups, thus destabilising domestic political processes in the US. It would also make sense simultaneously to support isolationist tendencies in American politics.
Now, I'm not saying politics have went that way in America, but right now the guys in charge wants to build a fucking wall. Like, you can't get more isolationist.
And you've got shit like Charleston happening, you've got Antifa fighting with fucking neo-Nazis.
They've made it more expensive for you to import like washing machines into the United States, and you're not allowed to buy fucking fighter jets or bombers off the British anymore because they should be American built.
It just seems incredibly prescient if it turns out that he's not involved in Russian foreign policy right now.
He's not, but you know, he shows up every day with a bag full of his books and just like leaves them lying in all the toilets in the Kremlin.
So,
and then he's also a lover of the Russian Queen, I believe.
Yeah, good point. I missed that out. So with that bit of background, and the idea that we can see that Russia wants to spread disinformation. Also, we should probably talk a little bit about Vladislav Surkov really quickly here. Putin's Grey Cardinal. We've kind of touched on him a little bit in the past, but his basic idea.
He's like an interpretive dancer.
Yeah, like his background is like in mad abstract.
It's abstract theatre.
Yeah, and that's what he sort of trained as and whatever. But he became Putin's like spin doctor.
Grey Cardinal / tree. He's standing in the background, and you're born.
He directed all Kate Bush's videos. Might be fake news. Libel drink. So his whole ethos, whole idea.
We should buy a vineyard and create a drink called Libel.
Like,
I mean, it's an extreme plan.
Great idea. So if you want to get involved in that, you just go to Patreon
Yes,
at PGF.
if you want to fund us, we will take the first lump of massive amount of money from Patreon and buy a vineyard.
We'll just make that our goal. That'll be our first goal. At the minute, it's to like set up a proper merchandise store or something like that. But fuck that.
Fuck that. We have a vineyard. Anybody that donates more than $20, we'll send them the first bottle of wine, like from the first batch. How does that sound?
Sounds like a business plan.
So let's crowdfund that.
Love a bit of crowdfunding. So the Vladislav Surkov's general ethos and idea is that you have to be a constantly shifting, unable to hit.
Be like a tree in the wind.
Yeah.
Be like a stone in the river. I fucking shot.
So that any rebellion to Putin's regime is very difficult to mobilise on common ground, because it's very difficult to pinpoint exactly what they're fighting against. So 1 week, fund neo-Nazis, make pro-neo-Nazi statements in the press. The following week, fund LGBT rights groups and make pro-LGBT right groups statements in the press. Constantly change what your policy is or what it appears to be, so that nobody knows what fucking target they're supposed to be hitting.
Well, think about it. I mean, even if you actually think about Russia right now, see if you were to say what they are particularly against. Like, Russia as a whole are not particularly perceived as very sectarianism or very sectarian or very racist. Like, granted, they have really, really
elements
poor
in their society.
They have very poor LGBT like mindset, beliefs, political ideals, but other than LGBT, they have no other components that certainly breed. And I mean, the UK has various sections of it that have bad LGBT feelings or beliefs, but there is also lots of racism, lots of sectarianism, lots of things like that, which generally as a whole Russia aren't perceived to have. Now granted, I'm not in any way, shape or form making out that there's not like skinheads, football hooligans and Nazis in Russia. I know they exist, but I'm just saying, like, if you take somewhere like, for example, Poland has quite a large white supremacist movement at the present moment. Russia doesn't have the same level. Does have a white supremacist movement, but doesn't have the same level.
I know certainly within like football, they have a big problem. Like when teams go to play in Russia, the black players are getting abuse and stuff, and there's been actual UEFA sanctions against certain teams like Zenit St. Petersburg, CSKA Moscow and stuff.
I know they've got nasty football hooligans. But I mean, how many people does that make up of the entire nation of Russia? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. There's a whole fuckload of people. Like, and just because that is seen by the general world, because that goes out. But generally speaking, Russia as a whole, like certainly Putin. So Putin's ideologies are not sectarian or racist or anything like that. He's not ever shown that that's his. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't hate Muslims or hate non-white people, you know what I mean? He's not showing that. In fact, right now, what we're going to talk about with Syria, he's best friends with a non-white Muslim fella, do you know what I mean? Like he's also
allies. Then you could say that Trump is best friends with a Mohammed bin Salman, Mohammed bin Zayed.
No, I do see that. I see that all the time.
Oh,
That's
really?
true.
Cool.
Yeah, that's fact.
But he's considered racist.
But see, I don't think there's any actual sign that Trump is a racist. Like,
No.
Trump employs whoever. Like, so if you look at Trump's
We've spoken
company,
about
yeah,
that before.
exactly. So I don't believe that he's a racist. I believe that the people who follow him are racists.
Yeah, and that he
Not all of
deliberately
them,
plays up to that.
Yeah, but I don't believe he is.
But-
And I believe Putin maybe does the same at times to get the vote.
But I think there's it seems that there's building evidence to suggest, especially like if you see again, I'll put the link up for this. There's now all the Russian ads that were published on Facebook for the political campaigns and stuff
Russian
have all been
brides.
released. Yeah, have all been released now. The deliberately divisive on both sides ads that they were paying for during the Trump campaign and during some of them in the Brexit campaign demonstrate that they are deliberately playing both sides, trying to cause division and also trying to promote fake news to the extent that everybody's questioning what's real and what's not.
I mean, it does seem like the massive budget of like the Sleeping Bear, the former USSR, that used to get spent on a whole fuckload of military, does seem to get spent on digital warfare now. Do you know what I mean? Or certain, like, I'm not saying they're not spending any money in the military, by the way. I just mean that
There's that video where he bombs Florida.
He bombs Florida in a video. Like, they are creating new missiles and stuff like that. I think it's reasonable to say that a country the size of Russia are spending a lot of money in the military, but I think it's noticeable that they are more vocal about the fact that they now get involved in things. Now, I'm not saying that the British and American governments don't do that as well, but there's certainly less of, it might just be our media to be honest, but there's certainly less of a focus on anyone else doing it that's not like Russia. Like
Well,
Russia
yeah, I
are
mean-
the bad digital baddies at the present moment.
That's a good point. We're only aware of what Russia are doing
Because
via our
through
media.
yeah.
Although, having said that, like, you know, this has mainly came up and it's mainly been investigated so hard because of independent journalists in this country. This is not an agenda that's been pushed by what you would call the traditional, like, right-wing press or the traditional like BBC have almost given as little coverage as possible to Cambridge Analytica thing at times, and they haven't pushed it to the extent. They were not the ones investigating it. You know, this is something which has came from the left field and it's been pushed by genuine investigative journalists. It's not, unless it's the best infiltration scheme
The
ever.
massive overarching conspiracy.
Yeah.
Like it'd be heavy going. There'd be a lot of work.
It's not. It's been influenced from outside the mainstream, from journalists, kind of hard-working, good investigative journalists on the fringes of the press that have pushed this into the mainstream and sort of revealed some incredible information about what is going on with what Russia are doing online into English-speaking Western society.
On the upside, when we get to about 2020, we're going to see lots of new action movies about Russian digital baddies, because because that's what we're due to get, right? I mean, that's
going to be rubbish, though.
just guys sitting down at their desk. It's like, I think the Russians are attacking.
Give me John McClane in a dirty vest and a fucking HVAC duct any day of the week.
Instead of just like his brother Steve McLean, the IT technician, just sitting there
Going, all these Russians are tweeting at once and these accounts were created at exactly the same time. We need to do something about this.
I'm really bad at talking to women.
I've created a virus.
I'm on 4chan.
Fuck, Stephen McLean's an incel.
Fact. No, so anyway, so all of that brings us to Syria.
Syria, that's the one.
And where to start?
So I guess we start with what was the prominent
what brought us to
visual.
Syria?
Yeah.
So we have the gas attack.
In Duma.
Yes, we do.
Chemical attack.
A chemical attack.
Allegedly.
So-
According to some people. Because Robert Fisk was the first journalist to go there, and the Independent. He wrote an article for Independent, and he said that he spoke to doctors and stuff, and they said there wasn't any chemical weapons, it was just dust inhalation.
So the problem is I can show you between 5 and 7 news outlets that were heavily discrediting Mr. Fisk. Now, he is a world-renowned, peer-voted journalist, so he has credentials that are worthwhile looking at. I mean, essentially, I am not saying he wasn't pushing an agenda, but what I'm saying is he isn't as it was kind of getting made out, like some kind of hack journalist who was just there
some
spouting,
kind of cook, outlier, outsider.
He's none of those things. He has Amnesty International awards. He has 7
British press awards for International Journalist
peer
of the
voted.
Year, an Orwell Award. However, what I will say is there's a lot of evidential reasons to trip up his claims, and that's kind of what annoyed me about a lot of the press. I mean, and a lot of it actually wasn't necessarily in the newspapers, but being perpetrated by newspaper journalists on Twitter, having a go or poking holes at him, and it wasn't on the basis of, well, you have stated this, but actually this is a fact, and actually, well, what's your source for this? Because I have this source which says whatever. It was all ad hominem attacks on his character, his ability as a journalist, and all of them neglected to mention the fact that he is such a
yeah, I mean, they might have been attacking him this time, but a whole shitload of people have voted for him on numerous occasions.
Yeah.
Actually, following that, there's another video that I had posted to you, I believe, from an American journalist who was also in Syria, granted in Damascus, but he was showing that.
Oh, this is the Pearson dude. He's been quite. But when did you send that?
So there was 2 videos. There was one that I had sent you, which was the guy who was on the rooftop, who was in the city the night that the missiles happened. Right. And the next day, so he was reporting almost live to the missiles happening. The next day and essentially the first part of his article.
When you say missiles, you're talking about the Allied strikes against.
Yes, I'm talking about the missiles. The missiles that, from reports, a small percentage hit, and all the rest of them were shot down by the defence systems in Syria, I believe.
Right.
He was reporting before and after, and he was showing that in the city of Damascus, where there was missiles raining down where he was, outside, in the outskirts, granted, but nonetheless, in the greater region of Damascus, he was out in the streets the day before. There was, now granted, I'm not saying that he wasn't pushing an agenda again, but there was no obvious sign as he walked around streets, numerous streets, bars, restaurants, that there was a whole shitload of oppression and nasty going on in that area. Yet he was showing videos of all the smoke from the missiles that were blowing up directly above the town that he was in. So what I'm saying to you is 100% definitely those missiles that were getting lobbed by France, UK and US weren't just getting lobbed in locations that were full of active Syrian rebels, because he was in a hotel and the missiles had been flying over his head and been blown up in the town in his vision from his balcony. Do you know what I mean? So right there, so we were lobbing missiles into cities where there was people out in restaurants the night before.
I guess the UK would argue that, and France and America would argue that they're so precise and they were being aimed at specific strategic locations within that area.
I don't disagree. I mean, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is.
I mean, I might, but I'm not sure. I don't know, but I'm saying that would be the counter argument.
All I'm saying is there was a reporter there by chance when that happened, and from what he was showing the night before, by chance, and then what he showed the next day, it certainly suggested heavily that the area that he was in, there was missile attacks happening overhead, that there was people in that town who were just civilians, who were just at pubs and restaurants the night before, who went to bed and didn't know there was going to be missiles getting lobbed at them that night.
Yeah.
And then I actually want.
We'll put the link up to the
The
video.
videos. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not saying, like I says, I'm not saying he wasn't pushing agenda. One of the things he did point out though at the start of his video was that at the time there was a lot of Western journalists saying it was very difficult to get into Syria and Damascus and the likes, but he was let in. Well,
yeah, but so this was one of the major arguments that was levelled at Fisk. It was also levelled at Vanessa Beeley, who was named in a BBC trending article with no named author, which was sort of aimed at people pushing Syrian conspiracy theories. And it named Vanessa Beeley, it named Sarah Abdallah, a few others. So one of the major things they were aiming at Vanessa Beeley was that she has close ties to the Assad regime, that she's been put up in hotels, that she has been bussed into specific places and directed to speak to specific people by the Assad forces, and that this is the same thing that happened with Fisk. So they are being pushed towards a certain narrative which states that Assad is not responsible for these chemical attacks and that somebody else is, or they didn't happen at all. So it's based on, well, you know, you're guilty by association, or you're hanging about with these people, or you're taking their money, or they are duping you in some way, which may well be a valid argument.
Could you not also argue though that if you're a journalist and you want to get into the city to show what's happening, and the only way you can get in is if you pally up with the people who will put you in a hotel and will let you into the city, then as a journalist there's a part of your job that means you have to do that for you to get the story. The same way that an investigative journalist will go like undercover with drug cartels, or you know what I mean? Like,
of course,
I mean, there's a point where,
but at some point,
if there's no evidence at the other point, at the other side, you can't then produce evidence. You know what I mean?
No, that's true. But at if you're doing an honest journalistic job, then you would think at some point over a 3-year period, you might have something negative to say about the Assad regime, right?
But yeah, you're talking about
Vanessa Beeley specifically.
But that's the thing. If you then look at Fisk and the other side of the scenario, he has shown journalistic integrity time and time again. So could you not argue that it's in his best interest to be willing to claim to be willing to look at Assad from a pro scenario, because it means he then gets in by the gates, he gets let in, like he gets through the gatekeepers and actually gets into the city.
So what are you suggesting, that maybe it's a ploy to unearth or like to prove something at some point in the future?
Well, I mean, it's not. Well, I'm not saying that it is, but I'm just saying that from the point of view as if, like, there's some people like Vanessa, we can say, have said lots of pro-Assad things, and we all know, everyone listening here, we know that Assad isn't like the nicest person. I'm not saying he's an awful person. I personally don't believe he is any worse than the regimes that are in power in, say, Saudi, for example.
Yeah, but I think they're fucking awful.
Yeah, I know, I do. But what I mean is, I don't believe that he's any worse.
He's not any worse, no.
So,
but I'm not going to sit here and defend the cunt.
No, absolutely, and that's not what I'm trying to do. That's why this is a really difficult subject to approach, because like.
But I mean, you're definitely right. There's this sort of perception or narrative pushed by the media sometimes that like Assad's this fucking monster, but there are governments that we are working with who are doing equally as bad things to the people of Yemen, for example.
Absolutely equally as bad things, but it's okay because we're not talking about it. We're looking at Syria, and we're not looking at the atrocities being committed by Saudi.
We're making a lot of money out of those atrocities, although again,
we made a whole shitload of money selling chemical weapons to Syria.
We've sold chemical weapons to Assad, and now we're going, well, you shouldn't be using them.
We actually sold a pile of chemical weapons to Assad, and then got the UN to step in and say you should get rid of all your chemical weapons. They made Assad destroy all his chemical weapons. Whether or not he did is up for debate, but made Assad destroy all his chemical weapons, and we still kept all the money.
Yeah, of course
there was slightly unethical business practices going on there. I would also say at this point, something that we mentioned at the start of the episode was...
While I say we, it wasn't our government, but David Cameron did grant licences to British arms manufacturers to sell chemical weapons to Assad. That is a provable fact. We can supply sources for that.
And I mean, on that, while we're still talking about it, when we're talking about the chemical weapons used by Assad, and the thing is, I 100% accept and can see evidence to say that certainly Assad has used chlorine gas before. Certainly has.
Yes. And sarin.
He may have used sarin.
We have seen, so Carla Del Ponte at the UN, as we spoke about just over a year ago, on Swiss TV in May 2013.
The most non-committal of all the TVs.
But they love Nazi gold. So Carla Del Ponte, leading member of UN Commission, she said that testimony from victims of the conflict in Syria suggests rebels have used the nerve agent sarin. She said that it was strong, concrete suspicions, but not yet uncontrovertible proof. She did not rule out the possibility that government forces might have also used chemical weapons. Now, interestingly, this came at a time where the media narrative in the UK was slightly different. That the rebels were bad and Assad was good. So that might be why the BBC chose to push this particular story at the time. Whereas now, all we hear is that, well, no, the rebels didn't have access to this, or the rebels didn't have helicopters, or the rebels didn't have the means to
We'll
carry out
discuss the
these
helicopters
attacks.
in a minute, because we've not actually discussed that.
No, but I'm not suggesting for a second that Assad did not carry out the chemical attack in Douma. I think, on the balance of probability, it looks like he may have. It certainly looks like he may have been operating systemic use of chemical weapons in situations like Douma in order to flush out the last remaining rebels in areas in order to bring the Syrian conflict to an end. Now, again, not defending Assad and his methods or his ultimate goals, but what I am suggesting is, if you look at some of the evidence, it seems to suggest that this is something that he has been doing fairly regularly over the past couple of years, and it only seems to have become a major problem in this particular incident, or have been particularly publicised in this particular incident.
Well, I mean, let's look at the rebels. The rebels split up into 3 different sections, and across the kind of tail end of last year and the start of this year, 2 of the 3 sections of the rebel forces had eventually, through talks, entered peace. I mean, peace is a loose term. They weren't fighting anymore. They had surrendered. They had laid down their weapons. They had moved out the areas. That only left 1. They were in the middle of talks up until March this year, where the talks broke down. At the point the talks broke down, there was a ramp up of engagement, and that's kind of what brought us to where we are at the present moment. Now, that's 2 of the 3 sets of rebels that have now been removed from that area. Now, the other thing that you have to be aware of is there is essentially 3 components to the Syrian part of the fighting. There is Daesh, which is ISIL, which is ISIS, and they have definitely, provable by the UN's committee, used mustard gas, sulphur mustard gas, in attacks before.
Yeah.
And then you have Assad has definitely used chlorine gas from the UN reports, and we know that for sure. And then sarin gas has been used, and from both the UN and various parties around the area, third parties and eyewitnesses, there has been fingers pointed at both the rebels and Assad, and in some cases both the rebels and Assad, not just one of them.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, when you read the UN and the OPCW reports, they are very even-handed and factual in their analysis of what has occurred. They will state what has been used and what evidence they have for what has been used. They will state if the information has come through third parties and has not necessarily been verified. They will state in some instances whereby a chain of what's the word I'm looking for? possession, basically, of samples cannot be fully established. So they have been given samples of substances which have been taken from the ground and whatever, whereby they cannot prove exactly how.
85% of the blood samples that they've done proved that there had been sarin used in one of the attacks.
Yeah, but they did not have proof of the chain of possession which brought those samples to them. They knew who gave it directly to them, but they didn't know where it had come from before them, because it came from areas which they could not get into, did not have access to, or were too unsafe for them to get into. And in the case that they have used evidence from samples like that, they have clearly stated it. What I'm getting at is that the OPCW and the UN, from my reading of the reports, have never overstated or overstretched in their analysis of what's happened. They have often said, we can prove that X substance was used. They have not, in any case where they don't have definitive proof, stated that this was definitely Assad's regime or this was definitely Syrian rebels. They have kind of stated it as part of the evidence that they have, which is fair enough.
Here's where media bias problem comes in, right? So if we look at the Washington Post regarding the attacks that have came up towards the current attack that happened there, so the attacks previous, the Washington Post states things regarding 2016, like the world sits by as another massacre unfolds in Syria. It goes on to say, the scenario is similar to the regime's slow destructive reconquest in 2016 of rebel-held areas like in Aleppo, right? So this is regarding the 2017 altercation, and they're comparing it to what happened in 2016, and you're using words like destructive reconquest, you know what I mean? It's definitely a motive. Now that's from the Washington Post. Now if we then look at the articles from the UN regarding the same event, the article from the UN states clearly, essentially it states, so it's for others to decide whether to pursue this matter further to determine responsibility. We will have our own thoughts on this, but I would say that this was a grave crime and those responsible must be brought to justice as soon as possible. That's the last piece of information that they had posted regarding the use of chemical weapons. In the same article, they also state that they can't prove who it was that used the chemical weapons. Interestingly enough, just as a footnote, there is a PDF that is attached to this, that is the Secretary General report of CW investigation.pdf, that's quoted twice in the article, but that PDF now doesn't exist on their website. That's an issue within its own right, but my point being, so the Washington Post is reporting that it is the Syrian government that are doing it. The report that they are pulling the information from reports that definitely there was chemical attacks, but there is no way that they can prove who it was that actually done it. They think they might know, but there is no way they can prove. But the Washington Post that is being read by the standard Joe on the street states that it was the regime that were doing it. Now, this is then compounded further, because I've got a bit of a bugbear about this, as I've spoke to you about it already.
But like, is there any kind of balance of that? Like, so in the report, does it give an inkling, or does it sort of suggest that it's likely that it was one or the other, or does it just say...
There's one tiny bit of emotive language where it suggests that what's the best way to summarise it, because I'm paraphrasing here, essentially the greater global community should put pressure on the Syrians to not gas their own people, which for me to read as a language suggests it's Assad. But there is an argument to say that the Syrian rebels, it's also their own people, do you know what I mean? So it might just be it's still their people, do you know what I mean?
I suppose then the counter argument would be that as essentially non-partisan, what's supposed to be a non-partisan investigation, can't really come out and say, we're fucking 95% sure this was Assad and we think that something should be done about it, because they're supposed to remain impartial. But it sounds to me like there's an argument that they're going as far as they possibly can within their limits to suggest it's him. Now, albeit obviously the article from the Washington Post does not put it across like that at all.
No, it doesn't, and that's where the problem lies. That we don't have conclusive evidence of who shot what, essentially. Now, like I said, like you've already pointed out, you've got a UN investigator who is saying that there was a high probability the rebels used, or there was certainly a probability that the rebels used sarin gas.
Yeah.
So see if we look at then another non-partisan source that's getting read by people. So if we look at Human Rights Watch, which is hrw.org, they are talking about an attack on August the 21st. That is also 2013, but it's later on in the year from the one of the ones that we'll touch on in a minute. But in this attack, essentially, the UN report, right? The UN report states, and we'll post the stuff. But essentially, the section from the UN report that matters is they said that sarin attacks definitely happened. There was like 300 people or something similar to that effect that were like killed or at least hospitalised by it. It was quite horrific. They've said that the people who have done it would have to have access, or probably had access to, the levels of chemical weapons that the Syrian government were meant to have, and would have to have had tactical capabilities that the Syrian government had. Right. But none of those two things, again, definitely say it was definitely the Syrian government, because remember that you are playing a game of risk in Syria at the present moment. People are holding large sections for various times and moving back and forward. So the idea that any side at any point, and there is 3 players in this, couldn't have got a hold of surface-to-surface missiles and chemicals from various locations, we can already prove, and we'll talk about it later, to do with the fact that they were able to get a hold of aircraft. We can prove that with a UN report at least. So we know that they may. It probably came from the Syrian.
At points in the conflict, certain strategic locations, and thereby the
technology and
and
everything involved,
and the military
have been
capabilities
held back and forth, and that's entirely overlooking the fact that we also know that in the region, certainly Iran are providing stuff to various people. Israel are involved in a battle that's going on, and so there's other people.
Well, yeah. Also, I mean, we know from episode 5 that Operation Timber Sycamore involved the CIA providing weapons and training to the Syrian rebels. We know we don't have any incontrovertible evidence or proof, but we know that Israel have certainly bombed into Syria on behalf of the Allied forces in the last few weeks, and that certainly their objectives and policy in the area aligns with the rebels rather than with the Assad regime.
Exactly. So the problem is that the components of this are, they would have to have had the type of quantities of chemicals that the Syrian army have and the type of capabilities that the Syrian army had. But we know that there is components that are fighting for the rebels and alongside Daesh and stuff like that can produce these levels of both those things if needed.
And we know that certainly the Americans had a CIA operation which involved supplying, and this is
we discuss it.
Documentary
we've got all the information here. So then let's look at what the non-partisan Human Rights Watch say about that same event that I was just talking about.
So which one is this? Which specific incident?
This is August 21st attacks in 2013.
Right.
So they state, our investigation finds that the August 21 attacks were likely chemical weapons attacks using were likely chemical weapons attacks using a surface-to-surface rocket system approximately 330 millimetres in diameter, likely Syrian-produced, and a Soviet-era 140 millimetre surface-to-surface rocket system to deliver a nerve agent. Now, was likely in our investigations, that's not what the UN have stated in the report, right? So, where they're getting that piece of information from? Now, so they're non-partisan, right? Also says evidence suggests the agent was most likely sarin. That is actually defined by the UN report. So then let's look at. So I then started asking questions about how non-partisan the Human Rights Watch were. Now, I'm not saying that this is directly the reasons for certain things that have been posted, but as it turns out, the executive director of the Human Rights Watch is Kenneth Roth. Kenneth Roth. That's a difficult one to say. There's a.
Is that Kenneth Ross? If you get a list.
Oh, actually, it was. It feels like that's what it should be.
Kenneth Roth. You're spitting all over me. Fuck's sake.
He's an American Jew whose father had to flee Nazi Germany and whose grandfather owned a butcher in Germany. There's a bit of background about him because I read a whole shitload about this man to make sure that I knew what I was talking about. His background is he was actually the federal prosecutor for the US Attorney's Office during Iran-Contra. Conveniently, just a herald back to one of our other episodes.
Right.
He was involved in Iran-Contra.
But that doesn't necessarily...
No, I just found it... just of all...
I mean, so that was Reagan's second administration, I think.
When he was shifting guns to the Syrians illegally because of the...
To Iran illegally. So there was a...
It's called Iran-Contra. I know it was Iran. I don't know if I said Syrians. I'm just got off in a Syrian chat.
There was like a blockade or whatever, or a law passed. There was
sanctions for selling weapons.
An embargo.
There was
an arms embargo, so they weren't allowed to sell arms to Iran. There was also, under the Poland Agreement, they weren't allowed to fund the Contras in Nicaragua. So what they did was they facilitated a Black Ops operation whereby America sold arms to Iran in order to use that money to fund the Contras by Black Ops funding, and at the same time to negotiate the release of several US hostages from Iran. Now, the dude...
Oliver North.
Roth. Kenneth Roth.
Kenneth Roth.
He prosecuted Oliver North, who basically took the hit. He was like one of the fucking generals or whatever. It's
just ironic that through of like literally every single person from a country of like fucking 500 million people, whatever it is in the United States or something, that the one person who was directly involved in Iran-Contra is now in charge of the Human Rights Watch, and it comes up after we've done an episode in this before. It's just
just coincidental.
Just very coincidental.
It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't. However, when he started doing his human rights work, one of the things he focused on was the Soviet imposition of martial law in Poland. He has essentially had a few different human rights cases against Russia that he's worked on before. Following that, he was also hired by Ari Nair.
But did the evidence show that Russia had acted improperly?
Well, I mean, they did impose martial law in Poland, and they probably were heavy-handed with it. You know what they say about the...
No, but they don't say about the former Soviet Union.
The soft
in Stalin's time.
Stalin's soft hands is not a saying.
With hands that do dishes can make you work in salt mines till you die.
But then following that, he also the person who employed him as the deputy director for the HRW, Ari Nair, then left to become the head of George Soros's Open Society Foundation.
Yeah.
And George Soros is a known anti-Russian thorn in their side. There is numerous articles that I can post where Soros even claims that he's been outright attacked by the Russian government. Just saying that when you start looking at the...
Okay, yeah, but in the respect that there's been a lot of alt-right type fake news pushed against Soros because of his funding of general like Western liberal democracy type globalization type stuff all around the world. Soros is worth 8 billion net, but
18 billion.
He put 18 billion of his own money into the Open Society Foundation. He's used it to lobby for sort of pro-democracy, pro-Western liberalisation, pro-globalisation movements around the world. No, I mean, I think it's something that we should address, right? Because one thing that has been levelled at us over the course of our podcasting is that, well, you guys have talked about Robert Mercer a lot. Why don't you talk about George Soros? First of all, I've never seen any evidence that George Soros has funded illegal Facebook campaigning or dodgy adverts, whatever. And by the way, if anybody out there has any evidence from a reputable source that they can push us towards for that happening, we will cover it, no problem, because we are genuinely unbiased when it comes to that. However, even taking the fact that there's no evidence of him acting illegally out of the way, I don't think it is ever a positive thing for people with billions of pounds to spend that money to exert political influence just because he's on, in inverted commas, my side of an argument.
Well, that's what I'm just about to say. So there's evidence from Russia that George Soros has helped try to fund anti-Putin and anti-government sentiment before, and the Russians will have on numerous times suggested he's tried to overthrow their government.
But he's not made any secret of the fact that he's pro-democracy.
No, but there's a difference between pro-democracy and actively trying to
Putin's not democratic, is he?
No, but the thing is, like...
there's lots of Russian oligarchs who have also attempted to, push the idea of overthrowing Putin.
I know there is, but
they're all dead now.
I know, but that's not what I'm talking about. The point that I'm trying to make here is he has direct affiliations with George Soros. George Soros is very anti-Russian. George Soros and Roth are all Jewish. Are all.
Is the fact that they're Jewish relevant?
The fact that they're Jewish is relevant when you're fighting a war where right now there is a section that I'm going to get to at some point that quite clearly shows there is an agenda by Israel to hold an area of land that they felt in 1967 that's not recognised by the international government, the international world, that they've held it since 1967, and it's the key point of altercation between Iran and Israel and the interaction that's happening in Syria at the present moment.
But not all Jews are pro-Israeli.
No, they're not, but I believe from what I was seeing that Roth seems to be, certainly. I don't know Nair because I'd never made any much effort to look into him, and George Soros doesn't seem overly against him, or certainly I couldn't find obvious sources of him condemning any actions of Israel before. So it's just that this non-partisan group is in fact got links to someone who certainly has
partisan views,
certainly has affiliations with those who definitely have partisan views.
That's the other thing. Like Soros himself doesn't actually have any direct connection to Human Rights Watch, does he?
No, not Soros himself, but much the same way that we brought in the scenario that Eric Prince is a business partner with people who are in Cambridge Analytica. George Soros, the director of George Soros's foundation, is the same person who employed and made deputy director Roth into the Human Rights Watch. So George Soros's direct business partner and director of his company employed and brought on Roth to take his position in the Human Rights Watch. I'm just trying to get this clear in my head.
So George Soros gave, what's the guy's name?
Nair
a job. Nair was the head of Human Rights Watch at the time when Soros employed him.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
And he had brought on the other guy as a deputy. Yeah. So
I think it's more like, to me, the fact that the Nair guy brought that guy on and then he replaced him is kind of neither here nor there. But the fact that Soros was prepared to employ somebody directly from Human Rights Watch suggests that he considered the work that he was doing to be positive, I guess, right?
Yes, and like I said, the Roth in question has also had focus on the human rights activities of Russia in the past when he's worked through various human rights stuff in the early 80s. So we know that certainly he's shown that he's not a massive fan of Russia in the past because of their human rights violations. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm still saying that still gives you partisan views, you know what I mean?
But so why are Human Rights Watch a big deal?
Well, because Human Rights Watch are one of the articles that are meant to be non-partisan that people are reading, checking up about the human rights violations that are happening in Syria, and they're making this claim that on the 21st of August there was a set of Syrian-produced and Soviet-era weapons that were used, which...
But the UN report doesn't say that.
But the UN report doesn't state that that's what it was. They said that in our investigation, the attacks were likely chemical attacks from a whole then run of words that say Syrian-produced and Russian-produced. So, you know, it was likely something like the Russians came down and they murdered everybody. It's not a cool way to say a thing. You know what I mean?
Doesn't seem very non-partisan.
It doesn't, and I'm not saying that they're entirely non-partisan. I'm just saying that you have to take into account here that there's a few connections that then suggest that maybe the Human Rights Watch isn't. And then just to give you another idea, just to kind of take away from the Human Rights Watch, you've got the Pax for Peace, Pax and Peace, a piece of Pax. Peace for Pax. I'm just trying to actually remember the name because I'm just bringing up the article now. But essentially, they are talking about how there
Pax,
is
like
PAX.
Oh, like Pax. Pax as in Latin for peace.
Yeah, Pax for peace for peace.
Peace for peace.
peace
by peace.
Peace and chips.
Peace and jam.
So weirdly, they're also reporting like 400,000 displaced Syrians and how the government should step in and stop the Assad regime from the way that they are attacking their people and stuff.
Pax for Pax.
Yeah, Pax for peace. But yeah, if I
same thing.
If I look at, I looked at literally the first two that caught my eye of the list of their sponsors, like their list of their affiliate companies. The first one is...
So this is like they're another NGO.
They're another NGO who's just discussing how it's so bad for Syrians and how bad Assad's been to them. If I look at...
NGO, see what I did there?
Yeah. Essentially, they state that two of their big affiliates, one is a government-owned Dutch bank. It doesn't usually matter at the present moment. They are a Dutch company for the base. But just what I mean is, that's a government-owned bank. Do you know what I mean? So that they have government affiliation there. But weirdly, the other one is the Joseph Rowntree Foundation.
Like the Central Bank of Holland?
Well, kinda. So it was a bank that was bailed out by the government in 2013 because the bank was folding. They had bought over a couple of assets and they weren't doing particularly well. The government bailed them out, and because of that are now the owners of the bank. ANS Bank Group specifically. The other group are the Joseph Rowntree Foundation. Now, the guy who's in charge of the Joseph Rowntree Foundation is an ex-member of New Labour who headed up the group for Tony Blair that eventually ended up being the group that controlled third sector donations and meant that 1/3 of the donations that were going to charities from the UK were coming from the British government at a sum of about 12 billion. That was his legacy before he left to then become, he was actually went in charge of Shelter and is now in charge of Joseph Rowntree Group. Now, Joseph Rowntree Foundation. Now, again...
What's this guy's name?
Rob Campbell. Campbell Rob. He's Glaswegian.
His name's Campbell Rob.
His name's Campbell
Somebody
Rob.
needs to tell him he's got his names written the fucking wrong
Campbell, R-O-B-B. That's his right name.
I'll be honest, I don't like him already.
Interestingly though, so he was 12 billion of taxpayers' money was now spent by charities by 2008, and that's because he was in charge of the Director of Public Policy at the National Council of Voluntary Organisations, which is a good name. It's a title that's got a lot of words. But because he done that, and then he moved on, there's again another argument to say where you don't bite the hand that feeds. They're receiving a third or the UK charities are receiving a third of donations
from the UK government.
And he's
like this specific charity, as the Rowntree Foundation or whatever the fuck it's called, are they receiving a third of the
I don't have a full breakdown, so it's just a third across of it. So it's 12 billion shared out across all the charities that get donations through the third sector, the newly established, at the time, the newly established Office of the Third Sector, OTS, donates 12 billion in 2008, for example, to charities.
Okay, but you would be interested to see what percentage.
I would imagine
it's going to the Rowntree Foundation.
I think it's that
because if it was fuck all, then it's irrelevant. But if it's a lot,
yes,
then it obviously impacts the information that they might put across.
Interestingly, he explains how he's worked with politicians of all political parties as the director of policy at the NCVO, and he's met some very committed Conservative politicians in all my jobs. He actually says that. And I've worked with all parties from everyone, and I've
got loads of friends who are black.
Exactly. I've worked with all the parties, and I've met
my best mate's gay.
in all his jobs. In all my jobs, you had to influence people and deliver change. I'll continue to do that. That's a direct quote from the man.
That sounds like a job description of an SS officer.
So that's the man. The only reason...
Not that I'm suggesting for a second that he's an SS officer, but like, I mean, to be fair, right, playing devil's advocate, which I'm trying to find a position here, it's a logical and accepted progression. I'm not saying it's right, by the way, because I actually don't believe it is, to move from Westminster government to lobbyist, political consultant, to get paid a wage maybe 5 or 6 times what you're getting paid as an MP in order to show outside organisations, NGOs, companies how to influence. Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't necessarily have any negative feeling towards him doing that, no more than anyone else that does it, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying here is I took 2 non-partisan agencies that were putting out stories that were anti-Assad. It took me the whole of 10 minutes to look into them to find that one has affiliations to an anti-Russian foundation, or the owner of an anti-Russian, or the anti-Russian owner of a big foundation that's pro democracy, so they're very against a lot of the things that they're fighting against here in Syria. And the other one of the 2 donators that I checked straight away, they were both have affiliations to the Dutch government and the British government. And it took me the whole of 2 minutes to look into that. So it's just that when you look at these non-partisan sources, you have to remember that they're maybe not always non-partisan. Like maybe the standpoint of the person on the street, the person who's taking the donation, or the person who's even working out in the middle of the war zone is non-partisan. But if the leadership team at the top who are getting donations or funding or are directly interacting with groups of people who have these very partisan views that are available, like I said.
Well, this is kind of the interesting thing that I was driving at when I was talking about the language it's used in the OPCW reports and the UN reports, which are kind of one and the same thing largely here with Syria, is that they are very even-handed, very factual, and very not overstretching in their claims. And when you see the kind of dossiers or whatever that are being used to argue in favour of military intervention in Syria by the US or by France or by the UK, they tend to not directly cite the UN reports because they don't meet the criteria for justifying military intervention. So they tend to go to things like, for example, the main reason that France have used, and actually France, in fairness to them, fully disclosed 7 pages of a report into the chemical attack of the 7th of April on Douma, Eastern Ghouta, Syria. The title is Syria's Clandestine Chemical Weapons Programme. It was published on April 14th by 2008 in 2018, after Macron said, "We've got incontrovertible proof, and I'm going to show it to the press to prove why we have embarked on this policy of strikes against Syria." And in the first paragraph,
are we talking about that sexy French article that I was reading today?
It's the actual
the
file,
the full
report that I sent to you earlier today. Yeah. So I'm just going to read the first paragraph just to get across exactly. This is what France has considered the top piece of evidence, the headline piece of evidence to get across in their 7-page report. Several lethal chemical attacks took place in the town of Douma in the late afternoon of Saturday, 7th April 2018, and we assess with a high degree of confidence that they were carried out by the Syrian regime. Following the Syrian regime's resumption of its military offensive, as well as high levels of Air Force activity over the town of Douma in eastern Ghouta, 2 new cases of toxic agents employment were spontaneously reported by civil society and local and international media from the late afternoon of 7th of April. Non-governmental medical organisations active in Ghouta, the Syrian American Medical Society and the Union of Medical Care and Relief Organisations, whose information is generally reliable, publicly stated that strikes had targeted, in particular, local medical infrastructure on the 6th and the 7th of April. Now, they went in, carried out these strikes prior to any OPCW inspectors arriving, any UN engagement and ability to carry out any investigative work. And they were due to go in literally the day after.
Oh, they were doing, so this happened, we attacked on Wednesday night, they were meant to go in Thursday morning.
Correct. They have cited the Syrian American Medical Society, who are an American-based group who are made up of Syrian dissidents and refugees and people who are fairly obviously have partisanship in this. And by the way, I would like to state, I'm fairly sure that there's a very good chance, I'd say I'm like 90% sure that Assad did carry out these attacks.
The most recent ones?
Yes.
Yeah.
But this is not incontrovertible proof. Using the Syrian American Medical Society and the Union of Medical Care and Relief Organisations, who are French founded.
Who are French founded, and also the UN states that they're like, they get like 4.4 billion donated, which I can't seem to find where it said the donations
well, that's
came
it.
from.
I mean, I'm sure if we did a bit more digging, we only kind of looked at this today, we could probably find out more about where their money comes from, but it's certainly, they seem to be very non-transparent in terms of...
Very difficult to get information on them. Another good example of a bit of language here, just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, is, and this has had me stumped for an entire day once I read it, so... In its August and October 2016 reports, the GIM attributed 3 cases of the use of chlorine to the Damascus regime and 1 case of the use of yepirite to Daesh. Yepirite is sulfur mustard gas, but none to the Syrian armed group. Right, but then in the next paragraph down, it says the French authorities considered at the time that they were like, so this is regarding another attack that was carried out on the 30th of March. They said the French authorities considered at the time that it was very likely that the Syrian armed and security forces held responsibility for the attack. Now, I have no way to determine who the Damascus regime, I know who Daesh are, who Syrian armed group, and the difference between Syrian armed group and the Syrian armed and security forces. The language there means that I don't know who committed any. I would take a stab in the dark and say the Damascus regime is Assad.
Okay, I would argue that maybe it's just a poor French to English translation.
It may be, but then it shouldn't be finding its way out onto the internet.
Well, I mean, it was what was released to likes of Reuters and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's Reuters that I've got this off, so Reuters have just copied and pasted it.
Yeah.
But they've not read it then. Reuters, so I've taken this, I've then checked it to the document that you've got, it's the exact wording, so Reuters have just copied and pasted it.
Yeah, I mean, but that happens all the time now.
But that doesn't make it okay.
Doesn't make it okay.
But that then again feeds a scenario where that language doesn't make it clear who done what attacks. Reuters are meant to be producing this piece of information to make people make that decision.
I mean, my major takeaway from the French report that was used to justify the strikes, I mean, first of all, I'd like to state that we've already said we sold them the chemical weapons in the first place, right? Or certainly a portion of them. British defence contractors and manufacturers sold Syria chemical weapons, which they have used against their own people. And certainly, if they didn't use it in Douma, they've used it before. I would say it looks like they probably have used it in Douma, although there's a lot of people that would argue, why would they do that? I think if you look at their modus operandi, as I've said before, in enclaves where they're trying to flush people out.
Standard process is they drop barrels full of chlorine gas, and then it forces the
rebels.
But the rebels, but essentially
it forces them into urban warfare out in the street.
It forces them out of their strongholds.
Yeah.
And it means that they've got a better control. That's his method. I'm not saying his method is right, but we know that that's what he does.
It's successful.
Just the same way.
It has caused surrender. It has caused. I mean, they're being dropped like flies, and basically, it's got to a point where he's almost in control of the entire country again. Which is why it's interesting that that's the point at which we've decided to get involved. Also, when you consider the fact that Theresa May shied away from even allowing Parliament to convene before she made this decision. Also, when you look at the French report, apart from that first paragraph which we've discussed, in which it cites two NGOs with sort of questionable loyalties, in terms of they're not really going to say that Assad's fucking not responsible. And he is a cunt.
He is. I mean, the thing is, like he is a non-democratic, autocratic, Middle Eastern ruler who rules with certainly a
Iron fist.
Iron fist is the best way to summarise it, but essentially...
In the same way that...
Like I said, Saudi is a good example.
Lots of our allies do.
He's essentially a Shiite version of the Sunni Saudis, you know what I mean? He's like, that's the real...
So, I am not defending Assad because I wouldn't defend any of them, but I would, what I'm questioning here is, what is our fucking motive? Because we cannot claim that it's some sort of... moralistic attitude where we can't abide these people, these civilians being bombed or attacked with chemical weapons because A, we sold them to them in the first place, and B, our main justification, it seems from this French report, is he's killing his own people, he's killing civilians. We cannot allow him to create all these civilian casualties. And if you look at the data for the number of civilians who were killed in Syria in, like, last year in 2017, it's we as in the Allied forces, the French, the UK and the US in 2017 were responsible for... Sorry?
And Israel as well.
Yeah, were responsible for the second most civilian casualties. Nearly 1,800 civilian casualties were on us. Granted, Assad's regime were responsible for about twice that much, but we can't say that, you know, we haven't killed civilians here.
Well, I'm also now going to tell you about a weapon that we use in Syria. It's commonly known as a thermobaric. Yeah. But the British government actually have changed the name of it because if you look up thermobaric weapons, they are fucking horrific. Essentially, on the most basic term, how they work is they disperse a aerosol chemical out, which causes a large fire, bomb, shockwave. Essentially, the chemical ignites the oxygen in the area around it. It causes a big fireball.
And a big pressure wave.
The pressure wave has been known to rupture soft organs, so they reckon your stomach, your lungs, your ears, your nose.
But no, your cock.
Your floppy penis. I'm glad we're making joke of this because it's fucking awful. It's actually,
Sorry, I know.
It's actually awful. So this creates an aerosol chemical. Now the thing is, in the event you're lucky enough to have inhaled the chemical, when it ignites, it also sets fire to the inside of your lungs. Now, if you're lucky enough to inhale the chemical and it doesn't ignite and set fire to the inside of your lungs, it then poisons you because the chemical in question is highly toxic and you die anyway. So we are firing bombs. We are firing bombs. We can prove that we are firing missiles that's warheads are rupturing people's eardrums and lungs, suffocating, poisoning them from the inside or setting fire to them from the inside. We are using them in this war right now. Now, in case you're not sure...
And in the past month or so, we've used, I think over 100 was what I saw in the figures I looked at.
And we're firing them from drones, from the comfort of a fucking room somewhere.
From Reaper drones, who are not, who are on paper, or certainly as we're declared
payloads.
Not supposed to have, not supposed to be carrying munitions.
They're essentially meant to have cameras on them. They're meant to be
these
UAVs.
like Hellfire missiles are supposed to be fired from tornadoes, but now we're firing them from Reapers at the minute.
So we know we're using them, and the thing is, when you talk about earlier on when we had spoke about how the government would say they're cruise missiles and they hit their target, see so we're clear, see dispersed aerosol poison that bursts into flames, it doesn't identify a target. It doesn't, it will get close to a target.
I don't know enough about it, but do you know what I do know? Is that the Blue Oyster Cult were wrong. Do fear the Reaper.
Right, so my point being that, see in the event anyone is in the vicinity, a rupturing pressure wave and poison aerosol and fire in the lungs doesn't just hit a building that's got 3 guys in it that are holding down a position. Do you know what I mean? It's the shit's nasty, and we are using that. And like I said, we reclassified.
Which brings me, by the way, to an article that was in Independent in January this year. So, way in advance of us re-involving ourselves to a large degree in Syria, which states that 3/4 of unintentional civilian deaths in
as opposed to intentional civilian deaths.
Yeah, in Iraq and Syria have occurred during the Trump presidency. So just ahead of Trump's inauguration, the US military reported 188 civilian deaths. Now it is up to 831, and you can guarantee for a fact that it is up more than that now.
Yes.
After our military involvement in Syria. So,
see, another interesting thing that we've not actually spoke about, but we did actually talk about in another episode, but when we're talking about the language and stuff of the reports before, we kind of, because I think we're getting close to a roundup here, but when you look at the stuff that happened in 2013 before the stuff that I've already spoke about, before the 21st of August, there's a report from the OPCW that discusses how it came from, and this is actually the reason that we're going to get to this is because we need to talk about Channel 4. So it came from helicopters that were Syrian government helicopters. Now, in that report, it states that the rebels had captured 6 military bases. And of those 6 military bases, there was 9 working helicopters, or 9 helicopters that could be working on those bases. The report states essentially they know that the chemicals were dropped from a helicopter that was a Syrian government helicopter.
Yeah.
And even though we all know that it was probably Assad's regime that dropped it, we can't prove that because the variable that's been put into place is the rebels did hold military bases that had helicopters. And I'm not under an illusion that just any person can jump in a helicopter and fly it.
No, I think if you've played
Battlefield or something like Fortnite or
even I think San Andreas had helicopters. Grand Theft Auto.
But I think the actual problem is that
it's just the same.
Once again, when we talk about
stop overcomplicating things, Paul.
Well, when you talk about how they need military tactic, like when they need tactical military assets to be able to fire sarin gas, but the same, and we were saying how there's lots of other players involved in this. But the same grounds, if the rebels needed a helicopter pilot, there is assets available to them that can provide a helicopter pilot from a military helicopter. Like, again, Israel, the CIA operatives that were training people and bringing weapons, we know these two things both exist, and we know both these groups of people have helicopter pilots. So that's presuming that there isn't already someone who is a defector in the Syrian rebels who can fly a helicopter.
Or like, you know,
a fucking helicopter pilot, a guy with a helicopter
off the top
license.
of my head, ex-Iraqi special forces who are still, you know, fucking fighting in the area and stuff.
Any random member of Daesh that's fucking, you know what I mean? Like the point is, there was helicopters available that weren't held by the Syrian government.
Like, I want to get something across right now. We're not. It sounds like we're maybe going out of our way to prove that the official narrative on Syria is incorrect, right? We're not. We're just saying, look at the evidence.
We're just saying that when you're getting evidence presented to you, so we have an article from Channel 4 that states the Syrian rebels never had any helicopters.
Yeah, it does. It says, so in respect of, it's talking about Human Rights Watch, said that it documented 650
Human Rights Watch, those non-partisan fellas again.
damages sites around the city of Aleppo alone. Sites are different to conventional bombings with larger irregular craters. So it's talking about barrel bombs here, which are used to distribute
Which is definitely
gas.
what Assad uses to distribute his gas.
Hundreds of videos of barrel bomb attacks and unexploded barrels have been posted online, and I agree with that and I believe that. These videos include footage said to be soldiers pushing barrel bombs out of helicopters. Though there is always the possibility that videos are faked, it's hard to imagine who would fake these, as Syria's rebels do not have helicopters. That is provably untrue, as per OPCW UN report.
Shows that there was at least 9, I think there was, I believe, actually 11 helicopters in the bases that were held, but at least 9 of them were actually operational. Now, it only requires one to be filmed doing this. So this is where the problem thus lies. You're then getting information from Channel 4 that we would argue is, for the most part, quite non-partisan.
And generally a pretty good source. The interesting thing, like, this article does not state any authors. A lot of
Human Rights Watch, Joe.
I know, but a lot of the articles that you find, which has seriously anti-Syrian stuff, never seem to have an author on it. Which, you know, why won't someone put their name to it? I guess if I was a journalist, I probably wouldn't want to put my name to something which I know for a fact is definitely not true.
It's provably wrong. I had real problems saying that.
Anyway, I would like to go out of my way to state that I do not think Assad's a good person. I do think he has used chemical weapons against his own people. I don't think that that's necessarily a justification for us to be indiscriminately bombing Syria, because we are killing civilians too, and we're also prolonging a conflict which was about to come to its end. And everybody agrees on that Assad was about to win. It's been said by every major leader in the Western world. It's been said by Trump. It's been said by Theresa May. We can prove this. So everybody agrees that Assad was about to win that war, and we have decided for some reason to get involved without involving our parliament, without, it would seem, a great deal of proof.
So before I talk about the UN charters and how the possible legality of the actions, I want to just say a bit of my opinion in this scenario. I believe that all three of the groups, as in the Syrian rebels, Assad and Daesh, have all used chemical weapons at various parts of this altercation. I believe that the reason that we are now stepping in, I believe from the evidence that I've seen over the last couple of days regarding the conflicts to do with Israel and Iran, that the reason that we are stepping in right now is if Assad wins the war and the country becomes less focused on war, the opportunity for Iran to have access to border with Israel is a threat to Israel. Israel hold an area in the mountains in Syria, and they have done for a long, long time. And the reason they have done for a long, long time is because there has been so much unrest in the country for a long, long time that the allies of Syria or the Syrian people have been too busy fighting or been pro-America at one point and then fighting, and we're now in a scenario where if Assad wins, there will be not an anti-American, but certainly not a pro-American leader in place. There will be no war, and Iran will be able to put its troops and its assets much, much closer to Israel than it's able to at the present moment. It will have more access to an area of land that Israel are trying to hold in the expansion, and I believe that doesn't work out well for our allies. I am not saying that is positive or negative is the reason that we're going into it, but I believe that one of the reasons that we are keeping this war going is because Syria has to be destabilised for the strength of Israel in the region.
This is the thing that annoys me about it, right? Just be honest with us, okay? If you think that it's strategically important for the UK to involve themselves in this conflict in Syria, tell us why. Treat us like fucking adults and then we'll make our own mind up. I do not believe for a second that Assad is using chemical weapons against his own people, because we back up regimes around the world who do the same thing.
Did you just say you don't believe for a second that Assad is using chemical weapons?
No, I'm saying I don't believe for a second that it's because he's doing that.
Oh, no, I don't believe it's because he's doing it either.
I think we back up regimes around the world who are horrific to their own people, and I know that we sold these weapons to Assad, so I'm not buying that.
Who did they think when we were selling the weapons to Assad they were going to use the chemical weapons on?
So just tell us the truth. You know, what is the strategic importance of it? Or be honest and say, we can't tell you what the strategic importance of it is because it's a national security risk, but we have to fight against this guy, trust us on this. And then it's up to us, you know, whether we do or not. But don't give us bullshit. It's clearly bullshit. I want to know what your motivation is. And then I can make my mind up whether I support it or not. I mean, so I always find it's a bad sign when you find yourself consistently agreeing over the course of a month and a half with the opinion of Peter Hitchens. But this is the position that I find myself in at the moment. And one of his latest columns, right, is basically starts like this. I'm gonna read the first few bits of this out because I don't know if you're specifically aware of this story as well. So it'd be interesting to see what your reaction to this is, Paul. Typical Russians, eh? They kidnap a man and his pregnant wife in broad daylight, then hide him in a secret prison in an Asian airport where they wield sinister influence. There they begin to torture him. Despite the fact that she is obviously pregnant, they chain her to a wall and put a hood over her head for 5 days. Next, they swathe her from head to toe in duct tape, in agony because one of her eyes is taped open, and fly them both to Syria so he can be tortured more thoroughly for several years. With the two chained and bound prisoners comes a delivery note from the Russian spy chief to his Syrian opposite number. This is the least we could do for you to demonstrate a remarkable relationship. This is the sort of disgusting behaviour we have come to expect from the Kremlin. Except that I have changed the details. This story is not about the Kremlin. It is about the British Secret Intelligence Service, MI6, and our allies in the American CIA. And the man we helped kidnap, Abdel Belhaj, was not sent to Syria, but to Libya, whose then despot we were courting. So this was during Gaddafi's times. This has all come out in the press in this past week. We renditioned this pregnant woman and her husband to Libya on behalf of Colonel Gaddafi in order to court favour with him, right? So how the fuck can we take any sort of moral fucking high point and claim that we are doing this for the betterment of the Syrian people? We do despicable things all the fucking time. The only reason we do anything is to serve our own purposes and to make sure that we gain something from it. So again, fucking tell us why we're there.
So finally, what I would like to just go over is the UN Charter. Not entirely. Number one.
Will be another 5 hours.
So just regarding legality of actions. So Article 2, Section 4 states, all members shall refrain in the international relations from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state, or in any other manner inconsistent with the purposes of the United Nations. Essentially, unless the United Nations say so, you can't just attack someone for nothing. Now, there is a caveat to that, which I will paraphrase because it's fucking tons and tons and tons of passage, but we'll provide it. But Article 51 states, nothing in the present Charter shall impair the inherent right of the individual or collective self-defence if an armed attack occurs against a member of the United Nations. Now, essentially, Article 51 protects you in the event you have been attacked. So the only way you can justify our actions in Syria is if you presume we have been attacked in some way.
So are you saying that in order to defend the idea of the United Nations in the sense that we shouldn't allow anybody to attack their own people, we are also contravening the United Nations Charter?
Well, essentially, from I think it's. I say quite clear, but they love a bit of language. But I think it's quite clear in Article 2 that no one is allowed to attack another country. No one is allowed to
the UN
without the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state, or in any other manner inconsistent with the purposes of the United Nations.
Right, so, which we have clearly done.
Definitely.
And we could have waited for
the
day, UN...
Literally a day, no even a day, about 17 hours.
For the UN to carry out their investigations and then do what the UN decided should be done. If they deemed any wrongdoing, we could have got involved as a part of a UN peacekeeping force or whatever.
Indeed. I mean, the thing that I find particularly strange is Assad had said that they could come in.
Right.
So we showed up and we fired missiles at the sites that Assad says they could go to check for the chemical weapon. So Assad said, come here and look for chemical weapons. And they went, not a problem, that's what we'll do. And they went to show up and they said, want to look here as well? And Assad said, not a problem, you can look there. Come on Thursday. And they were like, not a problem, I'm free on Thursday. I've gone for a haircut on Wednesday, but I'm free on Thursday. They showed that they were getting on their plane to show up, and in that time...
They wanted to look good for their inspection.
And in that time we were like, fuck it, let's missile the fuck out of all those places that they're going where they can prove the chemical attacks.
Did Assad actually say that?
They had permission to come into the country. Whether or not it was Assad, you know what I mean? I don't know if it was like, you know, it was happening to Assad.
What?
But they had permission to come. They hadn't been told that they couldn't come into the country.
I can't understand the contradiction between, well, we want to enforce human rights, we want to protect Syrian civilians, we're going to contravene the UN protocol in order to do this. Like, what is the fucking point in the UN at this point? Because our argument is always, well, Russia can veto it, so we have to just do what we want. So why is the UN even there? Because we basically, whenever they don't agree with us, we just do our own thing anyway. But it's been proven again and again, and also it's been proven that there's fucking no consequences. But
that's what the problem is. The problem is essentially you have certainly the UK, at times Germany, you have America and you have Russia, who are all free radicals who will do whatever they want.
France and Russia have been pretty sound for like a good 60 years or so. Actually, 70.
They're pretty sound
since they stopped killing all the Jews and that.
Russia?
No, Germany.
No, right, yeah, I'm sure you said Russia.
Did I?
Right, I'm sure you said Russia.
Oh, I didn't mean that.
That's why when I was looking at you, just like, I'm sure they're not. I'm sure Russia have done many, many things.
Sorry, I apologise.
But Germany, no, but even then they've not. I mean, Germany have certainly helped in altercation. Granted, us and more importantly America are certainly the ringleaders in that, and we kind of pull Germany, France, Spain, Italy down with us.
Spain are too busy being despicable to their own people. Here's a good idea, right? See if we're so bothered about violence against civilians in other countries.
Why are we letting the Spaniards batter fuck out of Catalonians?
Yeah, folk who are trying to vote for democracy.
Literally, it's the protection of democracy that we should be doing at that point.
Yeah, because we're trying to protect democracy in Syria. I mean, granted, they haven't used... Actually, did they use tear gas? They might use tear gas.
They almost... Probably. the Russian...
I'm not going to stick a neck out and say they definitely, because I don't know that.
I would imagine the Spanish government were just like, fucking use tear gas. Have we got any sarin?
They did go to the extent of...
beating up old women with sticks?
I mean, they did that, obviously, but I mean, more recently, during the Copa del Rey final, they were... what's the word I'm looking for? Not stealing. If I am a person who's an authority figure and I take something from you...
Confiscating.
That's the one. Fuck me, man. My head's all over the place at the minute. They were confiscating anything of a yellow colour, yellow scarves, yellow t-shirts, because that is the colour that's currently being used to promote Catalonia.
It'd be fucking raging when I showed up with my pockets full of canaries.
Just hundreds of buttercups.
Just flying out all over the place. We're fucking fly, my pretties. Fucking
chasing all over the place. Just beating hundreds of canaries with truncheons.
Just beating them, holding them down and jumping on their heads and all that. That's how the Spanish police deal with people who want to make a democratic vote. Just like canaries. So I think we're probably at the end of...
But that controversial note.
The canary note. As ever, all our
serpents.
All our surfaces are everywhere. Now, as ever, all our sources shall be on our website.
As always, yeah. We, as we said before, have a competition. If you want to win a t-shirt and a very fucking cool keyring, leave us a review. Doesn't have to be a good review, by the way.
I mean,
any review is eligible.
Any review is eligible. It would be nice if you didn't say horrible things.
No, but we're not like on here asking for a 5-star review. Just give us a fucking fair review, screenshot it and send it to our social media, and you will be entered in the draw.
And don't base it on how drunk I was at the end of the last episode, because I was quite drunk.
And yeah, thanks for listening as always. We had a really good time with Edinburgh Skeptics. Thanks for having us on there. Thanks to our new Patreons. Thanks to Dave in Aberdeen, because Dave reckons he never got a shout out, and I thought we did, so I want to make sure that Dave definitely gets a shout out at the end of this.
Double Dave.
Dave gave us some really good information for one of our previous episodes as well, so big thumbs up for that. And yeah, so
we'll have the episode out off the back of this one from the live show, I believe, from the Skeptics. My plan is to get that out possibly a few days after this one comes out.
Yeah, and big heads up, shout out to Richard Reynolds, who is our newest Patreon member as well. We've not had any interaction with you, Richard, so if you want to get in touch, man, it'd be cool to know who you are, where you're from, all that kind of caper.
And like I said, from anyone, I mean, like anyone who's in the UK, contact us anyway, because we're about all the time. We're on Discord, we're on Facebook, we like to chat to everyone. For anyone who's not in the UK and they're from all the other weird places, I mean, you wouldn't believe some of the weird places that people listen to us from. And by weird places, I just mean places I never expected people to listen to us from, because either they don't speak a word of English, so it can't be easy listening to us, or they are so far like the other side of the world from us, and I just, sometimes forget.
Listen to mad Scottish people.
Exactly. I mean, like the idea
getting all angry about politics and shit.
The idea that somebody's in like Tonga or something like that, or somebody's in like Puerto Rico, listen to is just like, I agree. I agree.
That's how everyone in Puerto Rico speaks.
I agree with what these guys are saying. Like, I love the fact that you do listen, and I love the fact that that's a thing, but send us a message, because that's quality.
Yeah, let us know what you're thinking. And feedback, always welcome. Anything that you think we've got wrong, challenge us on it, send us some sources that prove us wrong. And
go onto our TeePublic store and have a look at them, like especially if you're in like America, the rest of it.
I have to say, right, so Paul was very cool and got a couple of t-shirts printed for us for our recent live show with the Edinburgh Skeptics, and he designed all of our new t-shirts, and they look cool as fuck. I don't think I've actually specifically said that to you yet, by the way. They look cool as fuck. He did a banging job, and they look great printed out and stuff, so you definitely have a look at them. They're very good.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
Sorry.
Yeah, I've got a snowflake one.
I've got a punk one.
And I've actually got the Armagh one and the
Irma.
Hi, Armagh. And I'll get the great. This we just fell out on the Irish now as well. And I've got the red and yellow one as well. Both of them. Actually, see, I've got them, but they're currently sitting in the post office waiting for me to pay some ungodly amount of the import duty.
Yeah, that's why we're trying to get rid of TeePublic, innit?
Not get rid of them.
Oh no, I mean actually, yeah. Can we keep that? We can keep that open.
We'll keep it open as well, especially America and everything like
yeah.
that. They'll be able to get them much easier. But we have found a supplier in the UK. I am working on that. There's just effort involved, and I have to do things like, you know, be a father, have a life, go on holiday, and work as well amongst all of this podcast and stuff.
Oh
that
yeah.
we do.
On that note, we've got hopefully a few cool interviews coming up for you. So listen out for them. They should be available in the next couple of weeks or whatever, or 2-3 weeks. And yeah, we'll have the live show audio coming to you. We have been asked to play the Glasgow Skeptics with the same kind of show, so there'll be an opportunity for folk in Glasgow to come and see us, and it'll be a wee bit refined, a wee bit better. I'll hopefully be a bit less nervous. And
we've got the Byline Festival in August as well coming up.
Yep, so have a look into that, get your tickets for that. I'll put the link up for that on the website and stuff too, because it's got an amazing lineup. Latest addition to the Byline Festival lineup is Pussy Riot. Remember Pussy Riot?
Oh, the mad Russians that
Got jailed by Putin.
Yeah.
Get their tits out in that. They did. Like, that's a thing.
Cool.
I mean, I'm not saying that's the reason to go and see them. I'm just saying they're mental, and that's a thing that they were famous for. Actually, interesting, real fucking weird aside, but as I think it was me and Michelle's first wedding anniversary, your first wedding anniversary is paper.
He's went to see Pussy Riot?
No.
Alright.
It's paper, right? It's a paper anniversary, right? So I was like, what can I fucking get? It's paper. So I ended up getting her like a boxed newspaper from the day we got married, right? Thinking, oh, this will be a really nice thing to show our kids and whatever. The front page of it is Pussy Riot jailed, and it's a big fucking picture of like fucking Pussy Riot with their tits out and stuff, and I'm like, oh cool, I can never show that to my kids.
Yeah, that's an 18th birthday party showing of everything. Another thing is, you might notice that we're relatively quiet on social media for the first 2 weeks in June. We both
are on holiday
away at the same time, just by chance. So,
but we'll have stuff out and whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just that our social media replies and stuff like that might be slower than usual because, well, we'll be away.
Yeah, but we should have, like I say, we'll have this, we'll have the live show, we'll have some interviews and stuff. There'll be lots of content out there for you. We'll keep you right. And yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks very much. Goodbye.
Peace out.